man coverage on the outside. I've always been
M says Curtis Samuel, add McConkey, Adonai Mitchell, Brian Thomas Jr., and a late-round selection. That's a lot of work there. Big Rob, trade Diggs, draft a wide receiver in round 1. Will suck to eat dead cap, but if we hit in round 1 wide receiver, he'll be on a rookie contract. I don't think you have to trade Diggs to do that. Find a way to keep him and have him carry the mantle first half of the season. Hopefully your alpha dog carries him in the second half. Last one from Nate. Buffalo needs receivers who can catch a ball in triple coverage, a receiver who can catch a ball 70 yards downfield in tight coverage with his head turned 180 degrees and a stud blocking receiver.
There you go, Nate. There to go.
Dun-dun-dun. Yeah.
Nate gets it.
There's work to do. I think that's what those tweets kind of tell us. There's work to do, and, Brandon Beane and his personnel staff are hard at it.
And there's a zillion things that are going to change between now and the time of the draft. Free agency's coming around, restructuring a cap, all of that stuff. They're going to get cap compliant in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how that works, and we'll see what it looks like.
Yeah, but I do think the receiver room is going to look different by a wide margin than what we saw the room look like last year. That's it for us today. We'll be back for more of this kind of stuff tomorrow. We'll see you at 1.
Attention broadcast and IT engineering professionals. Odyssey, the owner of this radio station.
Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
I'm concerned for the rest of the league that the Chiefs are going to be even better in the coming year than they've been the last two.
A three-peat is in the cards.
It's legendary. I mean, no one's ever done it.
Mahomes.
He's our Brady now, guys. He is that guy. When it's close, he's going to find a way.
They underestimated the heart of a champion. It is tough to knock him out.
Mike Danger.
They're maddening because when you see them win and win the way that they won, it's hard to imagine that they can't do it again next year. That the Chiefs wouldn't be considered the favorite out of the AFC. Who's beating them? Who's beating them? They're going to win their third straight. Who's beating them?
Gene Battaglia.
Please tell me how the Buffalo Bills need to use a first-round pick on a wide receiver. I'm sorry. Get someone physical who can play on either side of the ball. Get me somebody in the defensive line that can punch somebody in the mouth. Get me a mean left tackle or somebody that you can groom. That is where the games are won.
DJ Mangus.
Go Sabres.
Buffalo prepares for LA tonight.
Owen Power. 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
A very good afternoon to you. We welcome you on in to the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. Rochester's only local sports talk show. We're glad you're listening along at 95.7 FM and AM 950, as well as the free-to-download Odyssey app. I am Mike Danger. That is Gene Battaglia.
Good afternoon, Mike Danger. A little flurries today. Finally, a little snow. You doing all right today?
Doing fine.
Good.
Busy. But, yeah, we've got an exciting show this afternoon. Lots going on. Tuesdays are always a lot of fun because we're joined every Tuesday afternoon by the head coach of the Rochester Americans. That would be Seth Appert, who's stopping by at 425.
7 games in 11 days for this Amherst team. That is brutal. It begins Wednesday night. The Amherst in Utica. And they've got some fun home games coming up this week, Danger. They've got the military salute game on Friday night where they're going to be wearing special sweaters. And the Kids' Day game, which over the last few years, I've been to a couple of them. That's good on a Sunday afternoon. Very nicely done, by the way. Sunday afternoon, first one without football. Let's have some Amherst hockey. We'll look at the weekend ahead, the weekend that just passed, too. A couple overtime losses to Syracuse. Seth Appert, Amherst head coach, coming up in the 4 o'clock hour.
Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post-Standard will stop by here later this hour, and we'll talk some Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of looking at the Chiefs and thinking, the Bills, they're really not that far away, but looking at what the Chiefs may do this offseason, what do the Bills have to do to counter it? Should the Bills be thinking, how do we build a roster to beat Kansas City? Are we still continuing this? We'll talk to Matt Perino coming up here. Also get his thoughts on Ronald Curry getting hired as the quarterback coach. I haven't talked to Matt since that occurred. So we appreciate the time for Matt Perino. That's coming up here shortly.
Our lines are open, and you can join us at any time. Just pull up a stool at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. You can also find our stream on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester and streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe while you are there. We'll get to happy hour after 5, a round of shots. And, today is a special day, Gino, because today is a day we've decided that we're going to look back. We're going to go into the sealed mayonnaise jar that we put our envelopes in back right before Labor Day weekend, right after Labor Day weekend. Right before the NFL season started, the 2023 NFL season, where we made our bold predictions for last season. And we'll see just how right or how wildly wrong we were with some of our bold predictions. I mean, I think we felt pretty good about a couple of our predictions. Each of us did. So I think we'll look back and we'll say, like, wow, we were really off on that. And I think there'll be somewhere like, hey, kind of nailed that one. We'll also look at who we had in the playoffs. Like the idea that I think we were close. I know I was close. Championship Sunday, I was thinking, all right, if the Ravens and Niners win, I nailed my Super Bowl prediction. But you know how the playoffs can be.
Playoffs?
They can be tricky.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Our bold predictions for 2023. We revisit them this afternoon in the Sports Bar.
All right, and you want me to go first here? We'll do a couple now, and we'll save the rest for 5 o'clock.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's because some of these are long, and this one, I'm going to say I deserve credit for this one, even though there are some things that are not factually correct. But the overall gist here, Danger, is this. All right, ready? Because at the beginning of the season, we were making fun of this guy, and he came out at the end. Jordan Love will lead the Green Bay Packers to the NFC North title, and his competent quarterback play will make everyone say that Ted Thompson was right. Fun stat, in his 4 starts last year, side note, we're talking 2022, Jordan Love's QBR was 82. Do you know where that would have had him ranked had he played enough games to qualify? First, better than Hurts, better than Allen, better than Mahomes. What I like about this situation is that Love has a cast that's ready to go. Defense, running game, young receivers. The Packers will make the NFC Championship game.
All right, so that one that's close. Close, but not quite. Your prediction was NFC Championship game for the Packers. Jordan Love and the Packers are set up. They're in a good spot. I was out with my brother-in-law, who's a big Packer fan, last night, and they have nothing to complain about. Whereas you went into the season thinking Jordan Love could be a flawed product with those young receivers, with that offense. The run game is still a little bit something I'd be nervous about. Aaron Jones isn't getting any younger, and he can't stay healthy. But they powered through the tail end of their season. And with that, Jordan Love seemed to get more and more and more confident with each passing game. Just short of the NFC Championship game as they advance to the divisional round. But going into next year in the NFC North, you could certainly see a dogfight emerging between the Packers and the Lions, much to the chagrin of this Bears fan.
Yeah, I was out at trivia night last night, and Tom Callie, a good Packer fan, and he's just all the Packer fans are all sky high about next season, as they should be. Like, yeah,
the season didn't end the way they wanted it to, and they were very close to beating the Niners. Right? You could have been very disappointed if you were a Packer fan, but I think most Packer fans viewed that loss as like, hey, we weren't even supposed to be here. Like, this wasn't supposed to be this. This was supposed to be our rebuilding season.
That's how we kind of felt the year the Bills lost in Houston in overtime. Like, wait a second. We actually may have a quarterback here. My goodness, we don't even have any receivers. This is a lot of fun. And that in an NFC that, let's be honest, it's still a little sketch, right? Like, okay, if the Niners don't get back there, well, you're going to have one of the teams we'll be looking at, winning the NFC East, whether that's Philly rebounding, whether it's Dallas in a contract year for their head coach, or maybe it's going to be whoever comes out of the North, Detroit or Green Bay. And that's why this next month is going to be fascinating between free agency as we look ahead to the draft. So, I can't give myself a gold star on that one, but
You're close.
Close, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to give you the loser horn, but I can't give you the gold star. I can't. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good prediction. What made it bold was you had them in the NFC Championship game. If they were in the NFC Championship game, you would have nailed it.
You would have nailed it. Yeah, people, where was their win total? 8.5 this year? Yeah.
All right, here's one that I think I got, Gino. The Steelers are a 10-win team and will make the postseason. That was my bold prediction before the season started. Everyone wants to talk about the Bengals and the Jets and the Dolphins. And look, those are organizations that don't just become functional overnight. The Bengals have a lot of talent that still haven't gotten paid. By the way, reports today say that T. Higgins is going to be franchise tagged by the Bengals. Good luck. You know
who does franchise tagging?
Dysfunctional organizations. Right. Yeah. The Jets and the Dolphins should be improved, but they'll get in their own way like they always do. The Steelers are a franchise that other franchises model themselves after. Any team in the NFL would take Mike Tomlin as their head coach today. Kenny Pickett will emerge as a leader for the Steelers offense. George Pickens will wow us with his eye-popping skills, and TJ Watt will reclaim his throne as the Defensive Player of the Year. Gino, I got to give myself this one because I know that I didn't get those last predictions right.
No. There's three, not even close. Let's review. Kenny Pickett will emerge as a leader. He's not even going to be on the team next year.
He'll be on the team.
George Pickens will wow us with his eye-popping skills. Look, I bought into that too, and no, he didn't wow us. And no, TJ Watt was not the Defensive Player of the Year. So
pretty good, though.
Dude, I'm sorry.
10 wins, made the playoffs.
I'm sorry. No. That's only because you're right there. You're touching the buzzer.
I said 10-win team will make the postseason. Everybody laughed at me, even in the middle of the season. Last year, when it didn't look like the Steelers were going good, I was steadfast. I was true. I kept saying they're going to be a postseason. They're in the postseason. They will be a playoff team. Watch the Steelers find their way to the playoffs. You were making fun of me all season long, and I kept saying it over and over. They're a 10-win team. They're going to make the postseason.
I don't know. I'll let the peasantry, the sports bar listener decide. This
Our regulars,
get credit on that one. I'm staying in the AFC North for the next prediction. Right. And again, we're just reading this. There's no editing, right?
These came early, before the season even started. 2023 football season even started. We made these predictions, right after Labor Day.
Yeah, and a little hat tip to an old friend who I haven't seen in years, Andy in Animal Control in the city. He's like, you know what you guys should do for your show? You guys should, and I'm doing his impression of his voice, you guys should write these down and then read them back at the end of the season. You know what? It was a good idea, Andy, because this is pretty funny. Wait. The Bengals still haven't paid Joe Burrow or T. Higgins. Same draft class. Higgins will not be the one who is tagged. Oh, and Jamar Chase hasn't been paid either. What's going on here? It's the easiest bet on the board. Under on the 11.5 for the Bengals on the win total. It's an improved division. They missed the postseason at 9-8.
I'll give you that. Yes. I mean, they did end up paying Joe Burrow. Right
after this, yeah.
Yep. And I can't remember. They paid Jamar Chase, didn't they? Did they pay him yet? Is he still on his rookie deal? He's still on his rookie deal.
He's still on his deal, yeah.
And as we mentioned, T. Higgins will probably get franchise tagged here at some point. So even though you said Higgins will not be the one who is tagged, I don't think they tagged anybody.
No, and Chase is going to be a free agent. Yeah, well, they're going to pick up the fifth-year option.
They pick up the fifth-year option, and then they run that through. So, yeah, the under 11.5 wins for the Bengals, yes. 9-8, yes. Missed the postseason, yes. It's a pretty good bold prediction, Gino. Nice work.
Okay.
My second bold prediction from earlier, before the 2023 season began. I'm bummed about this one, man. I'm so close. I wrote that at season's end, 9 teams will be looking for head coaches.
9 times.
How many do we know? Did you
8.
count it?
8. There were 8 openings.
You mean Jerry's not going to wake up and be like, I should make a move here now?
Yeah, I heard Danger talk about having 9 vacancies. We could have one more, just one more. Well, I was holding my breath. I wrote that at season's end, 9 teams would be looking for new head coaches. 3 of this year's coaches would be one and done, is what I wrote. Arizona, Washington, the Chargers, the Rams, the Raiders, the Panthers, the Texans, the Seahawks, the Bears. Those were the teams that I had looking for new head coaches.
I think you were wishful thinking on the Bears.
I really was.
Yeah.
Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson will be the hot candidate, along with another round for guys like Panthers defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero, Panthers quarterbacks coach Josh McCown, Mike Kafka, Giants offensive coordinator, USC's Lincoln Riley, and someone will do their best to lure away Coach Prime, and he won't budge. Did not get that one. I got 8, but not 9.
I think there's a lesson here, though, because all those names you were mentioning, like in September, we would have said, these are the hot candidates. Poof. Like Carolina goes up in flames. Yeah. Nobody is talking about those guys.
Well, he's still there, and that guy, that defensive coordinator will be, I think he's there as long as he wants to be there.
But I guess my point is, though, like when you're the hot coordinator like Ben Johnson, don't be too picky. Go get the job. Like when you wrote that, Houston, no, I don't know. Now Ryan's has done a good job.
Yeah. No, I did hit on the Seahawks. I don't think anybody saw that one coming. The Chargers was pretty easy. Washington was easy. I thought Gannon would be a one and done. All right, they're going to hold on to him. I thought McVay was going to struggle this year, and that McVay would end up being, the next NFL on Fox, studio analyst. That didn't happen. And yeah, you're right. I mean, with the Bears, it was wishful thinking. I mean, they had this head coaching cycle where you had these big names available to you. But no, we're good. Eberflus, we're good. We're fine. We're good.
I'm going to do one more here, Danger. And anybody that wants to weigh in, our phone number 866-4326, 866-4FAN, Twitter, or as Dan DeLore, by the way, he still has the bird on his phone.
Oh, he won't update his app?
He won't update his phone. I'm like, dude, you got to update your phone.
That's a pretty strong move by the Dan DeLore.
Yeah, like at some point, maybe it's just going to do it for you.
It's a strong line in the sand.
Our handle, the Fan Rochester.
I'm sure Elon is just quaking in his boots. Why won't this guy in Rochester convert?
Ban him. Kyler Murray is going to screw this up. What Cardinals management should do is tell him, collect your paychecks and sit out for the year. But no, they're going to bend to Murray and welcome him back in November. Well, they'll try to win meaningless games. This is going to cost the Cardinals the number 1 overall pick, and it won't be enough to save the job of James Gannon. He's a clear one and done in the desert.
Boy, the way last offseason went, it was trending in the direction of Gannon being a one and done, right? Like there was a lot of things that were happening before the draft, and
the way they hired him was sketch. Yeah,
that was sketchy. They were docked a pick at the draft for the way he was. All this stuff surrounding him just kind of made it look like, all right, they don't really know what they're doing with this guy. The Kyler Murray piece is interesting. I mean, really, it's Kyler Murray's franchise. They will go as Kyler Murray goes. The head coach will be, will be left in the dust. If Kyler Murray fails, it's not going to be on Kyler Murray. It'll be on the coach. And Kyler Murray, to my eyes, isn't the guy that you build a franchise around anymore. I don't think that he ever was. I think he's a me-first guy. It drives me crazy when you have a guy that's a me-first guy leading your team. This is my fear with Justin Fields and whoever he ends up playing for, is that he has, to me, very similar traits to Kyler Murray. And I just don't think that's the kind of player, as skilled and as gifted as they both are athletically, that's the kind of player that you can build a team around, because at the end of the day, they're in it for themselves more than anybody.
Yeah, it's wow. When you look at the dead cap figure, because I was thinking maybe this is a quarterback that you could see conceivably, I don't know, fresh start in Pittsburgh or some other team that needs a quarterback. $81.5 million, a dead cap figure. He's in Arizona.
Oh, he ain't going
They're
anywhere.
stuck.
Yeah, that they gave him that terrible contract, and he tore his ACL, and he came back, and how many games is he going to win them next year?
The terrible contract with all that money that has a clause that basically says don't play video games.
That was great. All right, I'll give one more as well. I was wrong on this one. Which I don't know. There's no shame in being wrong. These were our bold predictions going into the season.
No, we're not going to say the Bills will make the postseason. Right. No, not bold.
But bold prediction. I'm going to try ice cream this season, and I'm going to like it. It's delicious. The leading rookie rusher won't be Bijan Robinson in Atlanta. It'll be Zach Charbonnet in Seattle. Just basing off of yards here. Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet in the backfield. Pete Carroll may never ask Geno Smith to pass again. You could see that team with 2 1,000-yard rushers. I believe it'll be Charbonnet who paces all rookie running backs in rushing yards gained. Now, it turns out it was actually, despite Arthur Smith's best efforts, Bijan Robinson leading all rookies last season with 976 rushing yards.
Which... it used to be like a big deal. 1,000-yard rusher. Like, no, in the NFL, we're supposed to get yards everywhere. Like, that's nothing. Charbonnet ended up 4th on the list danger, so I'm not going to punish you for that because...
I think he had some injuries he was dealing with. The backfield was injured between he and Walker, and they just never got on the same page.
Yeah, a couple thoughts here. One, I don't think we took Jahmyr Gibbs seriously. Although Gibbs finished second, it seems like we're just kind of scratching the surface, and we were pointing and laughing at Detroit like, wait a second, why would you reach for that guy in the first round? Second of all, I'm very curious to see what that Atlanta offense kind of evolves into because they have all these parts. It's the most frustrating offense for any fantasy manager. And to have Bijan with a real head coach that might unlock his potential, yeah, I'm all for that. None of the, what was the line that Andy Behrens gave us? The star of the Atlanta offense isn't Bijan Robinson.
It's Arthur Smith.
It's Arthur Smith.
Correct. Before we get to break here, do you want to share who you had in the postseason, and we can get to the rest of our bold predictions during happy hour?
I had NFC, San Francisco, Dallas, Detroit, New Orleans. So I had 3 of the 4 division winners, right? Philly, Green Bay, Atlanta. So it's not terribly off. I was off by 1 division winner and 1 by 1 wild card. I had basically your NFC Championship game, San Francisco over Dallas, which I know a lot of Dallas fans thought that should have been the case. AFC, I had the Bills going 10-7, being the 4 seed, and they ended up being the 2nd. I had Ravens, Chiefs, Jags, Bills. Ravens over the Bills then in the divisional round. So that's exactly where the Bills went out, not to that opponent. Had the Ravens over the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Wishful thinking. So my Super Bowl was the was the Ravens and the 49ers, which meant, well, I had Lamar Jackson as the MVP, Ravens 24, Niners 20 in the Super Bowl.
Well, did you have Lamar Jackson as the MVP or the Super Bowl MVP? Did we make that distinction for the bold predictions, or did we just say that's who?
I'm just, honest to God, I don't want to lie here. I don't remember. So.
Okay. Yeah, I had in the NFC San Francisco winning out west, Dallas winning the East, Detroit winning the North. I had New Orleans winning the South.
Why did we buy in the Saints? What was the trap there? Was it that Derek Carr was not used properly?
The thing with the Saints was they almost won that division. Very quietly. It was just a bad division, right? The Bucs won it, but the Saints were right there. The Saints almost won that division. I had Philly, Green Bay, and Atlanta making it into the postseason as wild cards, with Dallas beating Atlanta, Green Bay over Detroit, Philly over New Orleans, and then in the divisional round, San Francisco over Green Bay, which happened, Dallas over Philly, which that matchup never came to fruition. I had San Francisco beating Dallas in the NFC Championship game and advancing to the Super Bowl, so I got the NFC representative right with San Francisco, as you did.
Yeah.
In the AFC, I had the Ravens winning the North, the Chiefs winning the West, the Jags winning the South, and the Bills at 10-7 winning the AFC East, with the Steelers, the Broncos, and I had the Bengals in the postseason.
Yeah.
The Broncos were farting around. Those were my three wild card teams. Chiefs over Bengals in wild card round. Jags over Broncos, Bills over Steelers. So I actually had that first round Bills over Steelers, even though the seeding was a little bit differently there. I had the Bills as a 4 seed, not as a 2. Ravens over Bills in the divisional round. Chiefs over the Jags in the divisional round. Ravens over Chiefs. Again, as you said, wishful thinking. Yeah. So I had the same. And I remember this because I remember when you unveiled, I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
We had the same Super Bowl. We both thought Ravens Niners. I had the Ravens beating the Niners, and I had Lamar Jackson.
I got to correct myself. I was reading off the wrong one. I had Ravens over Philly. That was my Super Bowl, and my MVP was actually this. This is where it got to go back in time. Trevor Lawrence. I thought the Jags were going to
season MVP.
Season
so this
MVP.
Was season MVP.
Season MVP. Yeah.
Right. So I got the season MVP right with Lamar Jackson, but of course the Ravens didn't get their desired outcome as they were bounced in the championship round by those Chiefs, the eventual champions. So there you go. The beginning of our bold prediction reveal from earlier this season as we kind of look back at the bold predictions we made prior to the 2023 season. We'll wrap it up and share a few more during happy hour coming up at 5 o'clock. And the one that I'm most proud of, I'm saving for happy hour because I feel like where you could question my Steelers bold prediction, Gino, I don't know that you can question this one. This one, I feel like I rode this wave throughout the course of the season, through the ups and downs and the entire roller coaster ride of the Buffalo Bills season. My Buffalo Bills prediction, I think, was pretty spot on.
I think I get credit for my bill, even though it didn't end the exact way for my Bills prediction. I had a forecast of what would happen with McDermott and his staff there.
Yeah.
It's so,
I remember.
Yeah,
all right, we'll get to that coming up at happy hour just after 5 o'clock. First, we'll get to Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post-Standard, the Shout Buffalo Bills podcast as well. Matt Perino stopping by the sports bar next. We have time for your calls as well at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
Odyssey has Sports Update.
Sabres hockey tonight. The team hosting the LA Kings. One player that will not be on the ice, Owen Power. He left yesterday's practice with an injury. Head coach Don Granato on the timetable.
It's going to be week to week. I think in 1 week we'll have a better idea of how long and what a return would look like at that point. So week to week, I think the hope at the short end would be a couple of weeks.
Power injuring his wrist. Our coverage will begin at 7 tonight here on the Sports Leader. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills football. Coming up next, our buddy Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, joining us here. Syracuse basketball. They're home tonight against North Carolina. Syracuse at 15-9 overall. Last month, they lost at Chapel Hill by 36 points. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
A lot of it is what they used to call self-scout. What do other people see when they look at us? Are we doing things the right way? Like in a certain down and distance, are we doing the exact same thing, the exact same way all the time?
So we have to institute a tendency breaker here and put that in the game plan.
Right. You got to look at yourself and say, hey, we can't keep doing this thing. They're starting to get wise to it. Or let's throw a wrinkle right here because I think they're going to expect us to do this one thing. Let's make it look like that and then snap off a big one over here. That kind of stuff is what quality control guys do, plus a gazillion other things.
That's Steve Tasker, Chris Brown from One Bills Live talking about a new hire for the Buffalo Bills, DJ Mangas, who is the offensive quality control coach. As we talk some Buffalo Bills in the Sports Bar with our buddy Matt Perino from the Syracuse Post-Standard. And Matt, I think a lot of Bills fans are spending the last couple of days here after the Super Bowl reflecting, watching, and thinking, what exactly more does this team need to do to be competitive with a team like Kansas City, to get over on Kansas City when it matters most in the postseason? Are the Bills as far off as some of us might think they are?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I go back and look at, this playoff run and every team that went up against the Chiefs. And to be honest with you, I thought the Bills showed up the biggest and the brightest, and they didn't get it done, but that's kind of been the MO for teams going against this Chiefs dynasty. And if we're doing a measuring stick here for all these teams, who is the closest? I think Josh Allen against that elite defense, went into that game, didn't turn the ball over, scored 3 touchdowns. I put out that tweet after the Super Bowl. Through 3 games, not counting the Bills game, the Chiefs defense gave up 4 touchdowns to the Niners, the Dolphins, and the Ravens. Allen scored 3. So they needed another stop. Like that's the bottom line. And all season long, I thought that this defense really came a long way. And in the moment when they needed it most, kind of let them down a little bit. And now part of that is, when you're as debilitated on that side of the ball as they were, I mean, you look at the Chiefs on both sides of the ball, they were generally pretty healthy. You have to get a little luck to go all the way and not lose really important pieces. When you're talking about being down, Matt Milano, Tre'Davious White, guys being banged up, not having Terrell Bernard, who, kind of took that step as almost like a star this season. I think that's a lot to overcome, and the Bills almost did it against a team that I don't think anybody else really had an answer for. I don't know. Let me ask you guys. Did it feel like in that Super Bowl, even with the Niners leading for most of that game, that they were in the driver's seat?
No.
I always felt they were letting the Chiefs hang around, and that's exactly where the Chiefs want to live.
No, man, I draw the analogy to this. If you're watching a college basketball game and you look at the halftime stats and a team is ahead by, say, 7, but the other team that's behind is shooting 35%, you're thinking, well, the team that's ahead is not going to win this game. And I felt that way with San Francisco. Like you're leaving all these opportunities on the field. The Chiefs will figure this out sooner or later. Here's my question for you, Matt, because I think before we talk about the draft and some other things, I think that Bills fans are kind of bracing for free agency. It's not a time where we're all kind of excited. It's like, wait a second, what's going to happen here with the cap? And well, the Chiefs have some issues too. L'Jarius Sneed is a free agent. Chris Jones is a free agent. Which team do you think stands to maybe lose more in free agency? Is that Kansas City or is it Buffalo coming up?
That's a great question. And I think, to me, Chris Jones was the most important player on that field outside of Patrick Mahomes last Sunday. And he's a game wrecker. And something that I feel like the Bills needed that kind of performance from somebody on their defense against the Chiefs like 3 weeks ago. And they didn't have it. And the big reason why, I believe, is that, Ed Oliver wasn't properly prepared for the shift in philosophy on Sean McDermott's defense. Like, I think they dropped the ball. They literally had him his first 4 seasons playing about 50 to 55% of the snaps, subbing in crazy amounts every single game. And he was fresh late in the season. It was a complete opposite this year. He was gassed. You saw it at the end of the Pittsburgh game, and then he was basically a no-show in the divisional round. And I think that was not on Oliver as much as it was the plan that he had to carry things all throughout the season, especially for a depleted secondary without Milano on the second level. I think he was making up for a lot of problems. So if they lose Chris Jones, to me, that is a huge hit to what they do. He's been a star for them all these years. The Bills, Daquan Jones, to me, is a priority. You try to get him back on a cap-friendly deal, keep that number low in the first year. I think that's huge. After that, guys, there's 19 free agents, and I'm going through all of them. And the name that I think is the most important from that group, and this says something about the group, David Edwards, who was their 6th offensive lineman. And they have 11 offensive linemen coming back. But I think David Edwards is the kind of valuable depth guy that obviously played that jumbo role, but I think he's equally as valuable as that first guard off the bench. Like, when he played in the preseason, he was really good. And I think that as good as Osiris Torrance and Connor McGovern were, they were very healthy this year. And if they're not as healthy next year, to have a guy like Edwards coming in off the bench is huge.
I want to go back to Ed Oliver for a second, and I'm glad you brought him up because Chris Jones is a special player, and you could put him in that rarefied air up there with Aaron Donald. These guys are game wreckers. They're big, physical freaks, and when you watch them play, or at least when I watch them play, all I can think to myself is, my team doesn't have that. And as good of a season as Ed Oliver had, physically, he's not that. And it's not Ed Oliver's fault. It's not a slight on Ed Oliver. I look across the Bills' defensive line, and I think to myself, Greg Rousseau physically can be that, but he's lacking that kind of mean streak that you want out of your pass rusher off the edge. And maybe Von Miller helps coach that into him here while he's still a Buffalo Bill. But those are the discrepancies. And I don't think it's necessarily the player's fault. I think these are things that are kind of out of the, like, Ed Oliver can't control his size. He's just not as big as a Jones, as a Donald, and for us to expect that kind of result out of an Ed Oliver, I think is unfair to Ed Oliver.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and judge Ed Oliver by his body. I'm uncomfortable doing that. But I think that you've seen year after year him get into better shape and better shape and better shape. I think he needs to take it to another level this off season. It can't just be resting on your laurels. You have to take the physical part of your game demands. Aaron Donald is what he is at his size because of how freakish he is in the gym. And I think that there is it's not for every player, right? Not every single player can dominate in the gym the way that some of these other guys do, and that's what separates them. But I think if you're looking for another level to Ed Oliver's game, I just think that the conditioning part of it has to be, they have to rely upon him now to be that guy that can play 70 to 80% of the snaps and not get tired. And to this point in the season, now there's a lot that went on this year, and he'll be better prepared for it next year. But I'm not going to say that he doesn't have that in him. I think that teams are fearful of Ed Oliver when they're game planning for the Bills defense. Does he always bring that consistent effort? No. But at the peak, I think he's been as disruptive at times as we've seen Aaron Donald and Chris Jones. Now, Chris Jones he's just done it so much and so consistently. They're in different tiers. But if you're talking about the best of, and if you could find a way to stretch that out and bring that in bigger games more consistently, I think there's still room for Ed Oliver to grow into that.
We're talking to Matt Perino, Shop Podcast, Syracuse Post Standard. And when I'm looking at the Chiefs, too, they have two corners that most teams would be happy to have one, McDuffie and Snead. And again, Snead is a free agent. And when you're looking at Brock Purdy, I think Purdy played a great game, but there really wasn't all that much for the receivers. When I look at the Bills roster, man, this is kind of a debatable point. Like, do the Bills have this right now in the roster? They got to find it. I think Benford can certainly be one of those guys, and that was one of the pieces that was missing in that game. Maybe if Benford's in there in that cover three, you don't have Travis Kelce open for a touchdown. So I think Benford can be one of the two. Rasul Douglas, your thoughts on him? Do you pencil him in as a starter? But the real question is it a foregone conclusion that the Bills are just going to cut and save whatever money they can here on Tre'Davious White? Or are they bringing him back, hoping that maybe he can be and regain some of that old flair?
Yeah, I don't think anything's a foregone conclusion. I think that the Bills are going to kind of wait this thing out, see where Tre'Davious White is. I suggested this week, I did a podcast with John Scott and Sal and Joe B, and we were talking about this, and I kind of, leaned to the side that the Bills would move on. But it wouldn't surprise me if they did bring him back. There's a world that you live in where you still hope that he could be a version of the player that he was and contribute. But to your point, I think Christian Benford has to be on the field, right? I think Rasul Douglas proved that he can be the guy that takes the ball away at the cornerback position that Sean McDermott has been looking for, since he got here. And listen, there's been guys that have done it at times. Tre'Davious White has been really good at taking the ball away at times, but that's never been a consistent part of his game. And I think Douglas, that's what he does. He's a ball hawk. He changes games with that part. And so I think you want Douglas back. I still think the move to, end things with John Butler, to me, is a proof that they want to try to work things in a different direction with Kaiir Elam. And, from conversations I had, including with Kaiir at Locker Cleanout, things have not gone well with him and John Butler. They didn't see eye to eye for whatever reason. And so they're going in a different direction with a new voice in that room. And it's interesting, too, because they've never had a cornerbacks coach, right? Like, they've always had a defensive backs coach with Butler. The year before him, it was Gilbert Byrd, who was there for McDermott's first season. And so now I think the shift away from that is maybe, all right, let's centralize the focus on this group of players for that coach and maybe give a new message in the room for Kaiir, who, you could say what you want about Elam, and there's been people that have been heavily critical of him, me at times, and rightfully so. But he has shown an ability to take the ball away, which is something that, listen, with those traits and that speed and quickness, you're always going to have a chance when you're competing in those situations. So I'm looking at Elam. They're an embarrassment of riches right now at cornerback, especially if they do bring back Trey.
Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post-Standard, our guest here. You can also hear Matt on the Shout podcast in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. All right, you mentioned the change in defensive backs coach. We also have a new quarterback coach from the last time we spoke, Matt. Tell us what you know about Ronald Curry and how involved Josh Allen might have been in this decision, if at all. What do we have to look forward to here with a brand new quarterbacks coach on the Buffalo Bills offense?
Yeah, so everything I've heard about Ronald Curry has been that he is one of the bright young coaches that has been in the league a while, that has started to kind of make a name for himself, was a candidate for that Saints job before they went with Kubiak. He was their passing game coordinator. He's a former receiver. He played quarterback in college. So he's a guy that I think this is the direction I wanted them to go. I wanted them to bring in an outside voice instead of bringing up somebody like they have a Mark Lubick who's on the staff. He's been with the staff for many, many years. Good coach. I've heard great things about him in the building. But I think sometimes to be challenged in all the right ways, you have to bring in somebody that maybe has a different idea about how to do things and a different voice in the room. Like right now, depending on what they do at the backup quarterback spot, say they bring back Kyle Allen, it is all the same people in that room. So I think bringing in Curry, somebody that's worked with a multitude of quarterbacks over the last couple of years, has that same kind of arc as Joe Brady, which I think there's some synergy there with those two, going from receivers coach to quarterbacks coach. and now he obviously wants to go and be an offensive coordinator at some point. This is a really good move eyeing down the road from my perspective as well. Like, if Joe Brady takes off next year and this offense is really, really good, you're probably going to have to say goodbye to him at some point if he gets a head coaching job. So you want to start bringing – you're almost in a situation, if you're Sean McDermott, you got to make that quarterback's coach job the safeguard against losing your really talented offensive coordinator.
Matt, I'm going to give you my perspective on Thursday night. I want to go back to a story that had a lot of people, a lot of Bills fans really upset. My perspective was this. Like, I was out of pocket, not looking at my phone, get in my car. I've got like a 2-hour drive, and I put on our sister station, WFAN, and it's late at night, and I learned that Joe Flacco had won the award, and they go to a caller, and the caller says, yeah, I'm just sick about the NFL cramming this Damar Hamlin stuff down our throat. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is more like a lesson in psychology here. Like, we're so past the Damar Hamlin story that 8 people actually kept him off the ballot, Matt. I shouldn't get this worked up about an award because, well, I tell my kids, like, that shouldn't be the thing we're striving for, to win an award necessarily. I should have other goals in life. But your thoughts on Damar Hamlin kind of getting jammed out of the comeback player of the year?
Yeah, I guess I got the logic to a degree why people kept him off, those that argued. It's like, you're going to either keep him off or you're going to probably vote him in, right? Like, if your argument is that he didn't play enough to qualify in your eyes for the award, like, I'll at least listen to that. But yeah, do I think that he should have been the comeback player of the year? Of course. To come back and play at the highest level of football after your heart stopped twice on the field less than a year ago, I thought was just absolutely spectacular. And when you have the guy that ended up winning it advocating for Damar to win the award, and you almost wonder, okay, are people listening? Are they kind of reading the room a little bit? Sometimes it's bigger than, the technicality of the award too, right? Doesn't it feel like this was just something that brought the country together, brought the football world together, and was something that I think meant more. So I would have given it to him. But again, awards are just so blah. I love the day after. We had a whole podcast talking about that goofball, Stephen A. Smith, man. I used to love this guy, man, back in the day. When he started, he came from covering the NBA. He was as good as it got in my eyes. He broke it down. He was super connected. Now he is just flippantly talking about anything without any kind of prior understanding or knowledge. For him to sit there, under the premise that Lamar Jackson, with 24 passing touchdowns, should be the unanimous MVP, that is a stamped, approved take, just absolutely burned me up, number one. And number two, I can sit here for an hour and talk to you why Josh Allen was the best player, most valuable player in football last year, if we want to have that conversation. So that last week, I try to stay away from the award stuff. It gets me too fired up.
Well, Matt, quickly, everybody says wins aren't a quarterback stat, but winning is, albeit the high standard, quarterback wins are everything. It's not a stat, but it's everything. Lamar wins that award because Josh Allen was 6-6.
No, for sure. And that to me is why ultimately I'd understand if somebody was voting for Lamar Jackson. But I just felt like if you took that Baltimore Ravens team, there was so much that went into why they were in that position. But again, it's a quarterback league. That was the team that won the most. And, if Josh Allen doesn't have that stretch of 4 or 5 games where, he had a couple of blah performances and they are sitting there at 6-6. Maybe you're talking about, it's why I'm not sitting there tweeting out, this is absolute nonsense. I could totally live in a world where Lamar is the MVP. And I can tell you right now, if I had a vote, maybe I end up voting for him. I had Mike Sando on my show a couple weeks ago, and he's got an MVP vote. And we talked through all of it. And he was basically in this same spot. He's a guy that's covered the NFL for a long time. He said he could have made an argument at that time for Dak, for Josh, for Lamar. The point of it is it was much closer than I think anybody really wanted to admit. And outside of that one really bad game for Brock Purdy, I think that he had a legit, horse in the race, if you will. So I just think if you're talking about most valuable player, and Josh Allen to me and Patrick Mahomes, those are the two guys is where I start that conversation. Aside from team record or not.
The funny part of that, Matt, was that when Stephen A. is going on his take, blasting the local writer who basically was the one, I didn't know Aaron Schatz was local here. Matt, did anybody think that you were the one that Stephen A. was going after?
No, and I was pretty critical of Josh, actually, after the playoff game, on the podcast. From the standpoint of, listen, I think he played about as good of a game as you could play against this defense without turning the ball over, taking care of the ball. But how do we judge these guys, right? When it's all on the line, right? The last drive, got to have it. What does Patrick Mahomes do in overtime? Down 3. He drives it down. He scores a touchdown. Josh Allen had the ball with the same chance against the Chiefs. And who knows? Maybe they score. Maybe the Chiefs come back and they score. And, there's all the what ifs and what could happen and all that kind of stuff. But, you get dinged for that a little bit. So I'm not sitting here as some Josh Allen homer by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't think we can discount a guy that leads the league in touchdowns. And listen, when it comes to scoring points for the Buffalo Bills, if they didn't have Josh Allen, they might be last in the league in scoring.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Yeah. I just look back and I think, well, Josh Allen, for as spectacular as he was at times last season, he also was so unspectacular that he actually cost the Bills a couple of those games with his decision-making in the moment. Matt, what do you got working this week on the Shout podcast? What can we check out here as we inch closer and closer to the Combine? And April will be here before we know it. We'll be heavy into draft talk as well.
Yeah, we're getting ramped up. Obviously, be a lot of free agency talk the next 2 weeks on Shout before we shift gears to the Combine. I've been starting to kind of peek at a lot of different prospects. I will say that the Oregon wide receiver has definitely piqued my interest. The LSU kid too, Brian Thomas. A lot of fun wide receivers that we're going to get a chance to look at in the NFL draft. But yeah, we're just going to be talking about setting it up this offseason. What's going to happen, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
This is a good time of year.
Yeah, Matt, enjoy a little bit of time. You certainly have earned it, and we appreciate your time today. Thanks so much, bud.
Anytime, guys. Take care.
You got it. Matt Perino covering the Buffalo Bills for the Syracuse Post-Standard. You can hear him on the Shout podcast, NewYorkUpstate.com. Always good talking Buffalo Bills with our buddy Perino. Got a little heated there, really into having Josh Allen as the MVP. I mean, you could understand why Lamar wins it, but there's a case to be made.
Yeah, I think it's kind of Stephen A. That's a silly take. Wait a second, he should have been unanimous? Based on what?
Well, I think what Matt and everybody is now coming to realize with Stephen A., and I still love him, but I don't love him as a credible journalist anymore. You love him because he's a caricature of that credible journalist that he once was.
Right. Skip Bayless was once this great football writer, and now you have to understand what that is.
They're in the business of entertainment. They are running the circus. That's the gig. And it's a gig that, we joke. I say takes our currency. It's a gig that pays very well. There's a reason why he's the highest paid employee at ESPN. It's because he brings it to the table. And it's not because he's a credible journalist. It's because he's a caricature of the credible journalist that he once was.
But on the other hand, if you're thinking that's not for me, I'm thinking the same thing. That's not for me. When Stephen A. is getting up there blasting the local writer for not voting. Who's the local writer in Buffalo that vote? No.
It was not a local writer.
No, it was not a local writer. Just do a wee bit of homework with the take there, and I'd have a little more respect.
Yeah, my thing with that is I don't think he's doing any of that research. I think he's got somebody who's doing the research for him, and he's going off of whatever is getting fed to him. I mean,
that's a him problem.
Yes, you have to hire the right people around you and surround yourself with smart people that can get you the right data and the right information, because when you get to that level, whether you're Mike Greenberg or Stephen A. Smith or Ryan Seacrest or anybody in that, you're reading a teleprompter. I mean, your prep is done for you. You just need to know, how am I saying this? What am I saying, and how am I saying it? And whoever fed him that obviously fed him a little bit of misinformation. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last time. We'll get to Seth Appert here coming up next hour in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. See, we have some takes on tap next.
Yeah, so this take I heard today, and I'll give the person credit, Bill Grant at Finger Lakes. There's a coach that's in the league right now. It's not a head coach, but he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm going to lay out the case for Spags here and why.
Oh, no question.
What you put Dick LeBeau in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, but now there's also there's no team is going to hire him as a head coach. I will explain that part of the take as well. Also from college basketball, 30 years ago today, this happened. It might be one of my favorite pieces of video of all time. And if you weren't around then, I'll explain this to you and why I just think we should have more coaches going after coaches.
Okay. I'll drink to that. We've got some takes on tap next. You can pull up a stool and join us as well at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
You're listening to The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Sabres hockey tonight, the team hosting the LA Kings. This is a team Buffalo beat before the All-Star break. And Coach Don Granato says that's not relevant tonight.
You certainly don't want to take much, to be honest with you. It starts at 0-0. Anytime you play a team you just beat, they're going to be ready for you. They're going to be dialed in. So there's, you don't take a whole lot from that.
Defenseman Owen Power will not be on the ice tonight. He's out at least a week with a wrist injury. Our coverage will begin at 7 o'clock here on the Sports Leader. Amherst are on the ice tomorrow night at Utica. We'll be joined by head coach Seth Appert later this hour here in the Sports Bar. Syracuse basketball tonight, a tall order. They're taking on North Carolina. The Tar Heels ranked 7th in the country. Syracuse at 15-9 on the season. And tip time for that is at 7 o'clock. Gene Battaglin, the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
I'm concerned for the rest of the league that the Chiefs are going to be even better in the coming year than they've been the last two.
A three-peat is in the cards. It's legendary. No one's ever done it.
Mahomes. He's our Brady now, guys. He is that guy. When it's close, he's going to find a way.
They underestimated the heart of a champion. It is tough to knock him out.
Mike Danger.
They're maddening because when you see them win and win the way that they won, it's hard to imagine that they can't do it again next year, that the Chiefs wouldn't be considered the favorite out of the AFC. Who's beating them? They're going to win their third straight. Who's beating them?
Gene Battaglia.
Please tell me how the Buffalo Bills need to use a first-round pick on a wide receiver. I'm sorry. Get someone physical who can play on either side of the ball. Get me somebody in the defensive line that can punch somebody in the mouth. Get me a mean left tackle or somebody that you can groom. That is where the games are won.
DJ Mangus.
Go Sabres. Buffalo prepares for LA tonight. Owen Power.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
One thing I do agree with Perino on, Matt Perino, who joined us last hour in the Sports Bar. And we thank you for joining us at 95.7 FM, AM 950. Our stream at the Fan Rochester on YouTube and on Twitch. David Edwards might be the most important pending free agent that you want to re-sign if you're the Buffalo Bills. Because he does not only add to that jumbo package when you have two tight ends and him acting as like the third tight end in that set, but you were we talk about luck being a part of this equation if you're going to win a championship. How lucky were you to have an offensive line that essentially played every snap? These guys, any injuries that occurred in game, they were back in there. They didn't miss games. That doesn't happen in the NFL.
No,
ever.
you almost forgot Ryan Bates was on the team.
Yeah.
Like who knows? Like, if he's going to have a spot next year, I will always say you can draft another offensive lineman. For years during the drought, they ignored that position, and it kind of showed up. Now, right tackle Spencer Brown, you're going to get 17 straight games out of Spencer Brown? You hope so. But then again, after next year, he's going to be a free agent. So you have to spend, I won't say day one, but I don't know, third, fourth round pick, an offensive lineman, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating conversation to have between now and the end of April because so many people are on the wide receiver round one train. And that's fine. You could say that's what they should do. I don't think that's what they will do.
No, because if you want to win games in September and October when the weather's nice and you can throw the ball and whip it all around, great. I think we've learned over the last few years, and we've been reminded that this is much different when the postseason. And there were some glaring needs on the Bills defensively on that side when it came to their depth. So I want Bills fans to kind of brace that it's not going to be a wide receiver in the first round.
What they should do and what they will do are usually two very different things. We'll have Rochester Americans head coach Seth Appert joining us here in less than 20 minutes. We'll get a preview of this week's action for the Rochester Americans. Look back to last week's home and home set against Syracuse, where the Amherst dropped both games in overtime to Syracuse.
I haven't seen anything. Did they call anybody up from the Amherst today with the power injury? I haven't
seen anything.
No,
yet.
maybe I thought maybe they So nothing yet, but maybe we'll ask Coach that too.
We should also keep in mind that the last time the Sabres and the Kings played, the Sabres actually broke the Kings.
It's true. Like, wasn't one of the quotes there, like the player said, no, we don't. We were ahead in this game. We're all getting a cookie.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That was after the Sabres, right before the All-Star break, went into L.A., beat the Kings. Their head coach ended up losing his job. Like, that's what losing to the Sabres does to an organization. It flips it upside down. They question everything, move on from their coach. I have a feeling that the Kings are going to come in tonight with a different kind of chip on their shoulder.
Who's more likely to win tonight, Syracuse or the Sabres?
Man, if this is a take space and we're sharing takes, it's too bad that we can't bet on Syracuse because that point spread couldn't be wide enough. I would take whatever you threw at me. Whatever Vegas decided they want to get. Carolina minus 150. Let's go.
The fact that Carolina lost, and again, they had a win in between, but they lost to Clemson. Team they've owned. Only the second win ever for Clemson in North Carolina. They got everybody to sit up straight last week. So it's not a question if Syracuse is going to lose tonight. It's just by how much. I have a take here. Dick LeBeau. If he's in the Hall of Fame as a defensive coordinator, and yes, he was a head coach briefly for the Bengals, and yes, he was a safety way before our time, Danger, but he's in because, well, he revolutionized things with the zone blitz and whatnot with the Steelers. Steeler fans love themselves in Dick LeBeau. All right, well, that's fine. I'm not saying Dick LeBeau doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame, but if he's there, then why not Steve Spagnuolo? That's now 4 Super Bowl championships he's won as a defensive coordinator. You can't forget about when he was with the Giants. He did a number on Tom Brady and the Patriots in the first of 2 matchups. He missed his one shot as a head coach, did Spagnuolo. Sam Bradford never developed in St. Louis, so Spags was quickly shown the door. But do you think he's going to get another shot? I don't. I was kind of surprised to read this. He's 64.
Yeah.
For the work that he's done, he's not getting another shot as a head coach. He's the modern era Dick LeBeau, and Spagnuolo will be in the Hall of Fame.
I'll drink to that. I think you're absolutely right. The work that he did with the Giants in thwarting the undefeated season. I mean, that right there, that's enough for me. Like, you'll be a legend forever just because you prevented that team and those guys from being able to say, we're the only undefeated team. No, you fell apart against that defense on the biggest stage.
Which is interesting because on the biggest stage, it was really the Giants only sending 4. He's like, you guys, Strahan, Tuck, those guys in the middle, like, you are good enough. Certainly the Jason Pierre-Paul. You only needed 4 that night against Brady. They got it done. Brady held on to the ball just long enough. This was different. Like, you look at all the metrics, how much they actually sent after Brock Purdy. It was a defense that relied on their corners. They played cover 0. It was
and adjusted.
Yeah.
He always, I mean, he's brilliant at adjusting at halftime. The defense for Kansas City came out a different defense the second half of the Bills game. They came out a different defense the second half of the Super Bowl. And for all the crap we want to give Todd Monken, I mean, maybe that's what led Baltimore to go away from the run, because when you have 10 guys up at the line of scrimmage daring you, hey, Lamar, throw it. We dare you. Throw the ball. I mean, that's what Spags essentially did against Brock Purdy. We're not going to lose because of Christian McCaffrey. We're going to make Brock Purdy beat us. And if he can, then more power to him. But you're not going to be able to run the ball effectively.
Yeah, and it's doing a lot of film work. I mean, Spagnuolo must have known 3rd and 4, game on the line in overtime. And it's obvious, here comes extra pressure. Like, when you've checked down to a screen or something, or hot read or something like that, and Niners didn't do that. But good on Spagnuolo. I just have one little comment about Spagnuolo. Guy who wears his Sharpie around his neck.
Oh, I thought you were going to go in a different direction. He does this move, and I'm kind of a fan of this.
Yeah.
I'm flexing for the stream right now at YouTube and on Twitch. It's not a flex. It's a bend over. It's a stance.
Yeah.
It's hands just above the knees, and you're looking straight forward, and you've got this intensity, and it's almost like you're in the game. Pete Carroll does it all the time. Like Pete Carroll was like the master of it, chomping on the gun.
It's like you're taking the 2-point stance, like you're the linebacker ready.
He's got his hands on his thighs, right above his knees, bent over, squatting down, and just looking straight ahead and intense at what's happening on the field. Spags did a lot of that on Sunday. I love that move. That's a power move. Hey, can I get a verdict on asking for a selfie or an autograph from somebody famous when they are out in public? And I know I'm only bringing this up because I heard Maggie and Perloff talking about it, and they're recapping, all of the celebrities and stars and ex-athletes and current athletes that they ran into when they were in Vegas for the Super Bowl. And one of their guys was talking about his pursuit, like how many guys he was like running into and chasing after and hoping to get a selfie with. And he shared a story of a group of guys that were talking Sauce Gardner's ear off to the point where Sauce Gardner, you could just tell he was disinterested and he wanted to just be left alone. And it always makes me think, like, is there a line in terms of when you should or should not be so bold as to ask for a photo or an autograph from somebody famous?
I think you look at the setting, first of all. Like, if you're in a restaurant and that celebrity is with their family, I don't think you're interrupting their dinner and their time. But if you're just kind of walking through an airport and you notice and it just seems the timing is right, good, great, do it then. If you're in the bathroom and you want to talk to Jay Cutler, I don't think that's the appropriate time.
Jay Cutler doesn't want to talk to anybody. No, he doesn't care. He's just going to tell you he doesn't care. He doesn't want to talk to anybody. But, like, I don't know, man. It would not have been appropriate for me back in the day in the Buffalo airport to stop Mike Ditka and say, "Coach, can I get a selfie?" Because it just wasn't. It wouldn't have been cool. Like, I just wouldn't do it. I saw him. I could say, I was right there. It was right next to our paths crossed, but I didn't ask him for the photo. I didn't ask him for the autograph. Yeah. And maybe it's a me thing. Maybe I'm the guy that just like, oh, there's Josh Allen. I'm not going to say anything to him. I'm not going to, interrupt his flow or his day. I'm just viewing him as a guy, not as a superstar.
Yeah, I think if you're going to Vegas as a celebrity and you're out in the club or you're out to dinner and you're out, I think you got to, that comes with the territory, right? Like,
you're almost out to be seen.
You're right. Now, there's a certain level of celebrity. I think, like, when Taylor Swift's out after the game, I don't think anybody's getting anywhere near her, right? Like, she's got her own security and her bodyguards, whatever.
Right. Here's another thing to chew on. Given what we saw out of Travis Kelce getting in the face of Andy Reid, screaming at Andy Reid, bumping Andy Reid, I know there are plenty of people who view that as a sign of aggression and are now concerned for the future well-being of one Taylor Swift.
Well, they'll point back to that moment. I think there's part of the story, Danger, we're going to learn, and we haven't heard it yet. Everything is mic'd up in the end. Not literally mic'd up, but there are so many microphones around. There's audio of Travis Kelce going after Andy Reid. And maybe that tells a different story. Maybe it tells a worse story. Like there's like part of that, like, oh boy, when I don't think the NFL probably does not want you. They want the fairy tale.
They want exactly what happened, which is for us to just brush it over. And Andy Reid answered it the way that the NFL wants him to answer. Oh, yeah, he did. We just, he wanted to be in there. I wish we could get him in. Like, completely ignoring the fact that aggressively he was in his face, shouting at him and bumping him. And if you're in a relationship, I don't care if it's player, coach, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, that kind of behavior doesn't fly.
Well, I don't want to take that step because what happens on the field is like these guys turn it on and turn it off. Some can't afford to do that, and I don't want to jump to that conclusion. But I see what you're saying, that like this is, for the Swifties, they're going to point to that moment. They're going to like look at that and be like, no, our girl deserves better than this here.
Right. If he can get that upset. I mean, we understand that there's a wiring that's different, but most people, I don't think, understand that football players have that wiring, and it takes a special breed to be able to understand that wiring. And then there's another part of me that's like, oh, what's to say Taylor Swift isn't the exact same way with her people when she feels intensely about something? Don't know. We wouldn't see that.
I do think also that CBS completely downplayed that. The question I have for you, Danger, was somebody in the director's ear saying, no, we're not going to show that again. You look at the officials in the game. Have you noticed? You probably have. There's the shadow officials.
The shadow officials are my favorite.
Yeah, they're dressed in all black, and they come out, and they're to oversee Vinovich or whoever's calling the game. And, well, who's talking to the shadow officials? Is that Park Ave? Is there a shadow official in the CBS truck that says, we're not showing that again? Because that... I don't want to say good television, but that's something you see. It's like, whoa, what was that? Tell me more.
If they lose, that's a bigger story. It got glossed over, and eventually they win, so they're all smiles. Oh, well, he was just really intense, and I wish more players were like that. That I wish I could have gotten him in the game there. You know, I love that he's that way. He's always been that way. They've been together for 12 years. It's not like Andy Reid. He was caught off guard. But it's not like that hasn't happened with Andy Reid and Travis Kelce in the past. It probably has. We just haven't seen it.
Yeah, like the audio may tell a better story for Kelce on that. It may tell a worse story on that.
We may never hear that audio if the NFL has their way.
Right.
Has he apologized? He should apologize.
Yeah, I think he did.
He did.
Yeah, he did. But I think he deserves a little bit more than just.
And I think the apology is just about, hey, look, I'm whether I like it or not, I'm a role model. I have to tell the kids that might have seen this isn't the way to go about being on the sideline, being part of a team. You don't do that to your coach.
30 years ago today, Danger. This happened in college basketball. I remember this. It's from the A-10 heyday. John Calipari was the head coach at UMass. That's when Temple head coach John Chaney interrupts fresh off the loss. Look, if you've never seen this video, go look it up tonight. I would play it for you, but the audio quality isn't great. But let me translate for you. Chaney, quote to Calipari, I'll kill you. You remember that. I'll kick your ass. Kick your ass. You've got a good team. You don't need that edge. That's why I told my kid to knock your MFing kid in the mouth. We need more of this. More coaches fighting coaches.
Contrast that versus what we were just talking about with players and coaches. No, there is no decorum. Everything gets thrown out the window. That was 30 years ago.
30 years ago today, where Calipari's just at the podium talking about his win. And Chaney comes storming in, and he wants to fight. Yeah,
just absolutely had it. I mean, yeah, some of these coaches' feuds are. I mean, Arthur Smith at the end of the year this year with in New Orleans with Dennis Allen, like the latest in a long line of just bitter, angry coaches not having it go their way and putting the blame squarely on the other head coach, Harbaugh. And Jim Schwartz, no love lost between those two. And Harbaugh was with the Niners and Schwartz was with the Lions.
Think McDermott. Like, if you gave him, like, true serum, who would be the guy, like, he cannot?
Dable. It's got to be Dable, right?
Has to be.
Like, the way that they shook hands at the end of that game, was the bare minimum of a coach's handshake. You've seen McDermott. I mean, like, after the Patriots game, big hug for Belichick, in his ear a little bit longer than normal. Like, if he has your respect, Tomlin, all those guys. Dable, nope. Just quick handshake, like in passing, like two ships passing in the night. Didn't even make eye contact, I don't think.
Nope.
I think they just, okay, boom, done. Have to do it for the cameras. Moving on. No love lost between those two.
Like, what is the penalty if a coach doesn't shake the hand? They're required to do it, but I've never seen a coach actually not do it and then not get fined. I know Belichick walked off the Super Bowl one year and didn't shake Coughlin's hand.
It was terrible. Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the greatest coach of all time. He's a sore loser. It's terrible. Might be the greatest of all time. Sore loser. Can't stand that. Amherst head coach Seth Appert might know a little bit about a dust-up with another head coach.
I don't know if we want to bring that up.
We won't bring it up, but he brought it up. We've rehashed that story before. Seth Appert with his team set to this stretch here. What'd you say? 7 games?
7-11, yeah.
7-11. Oh boy, Amherst looking to rebound after a couple of losses against Syracuse last weekend. We'll preview this week's action for the Rochester Americans with head coach Seth Appert next in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, the Fan Rochester. Gentlemen, the moment is here. It's your chance to shine. Valentine's Day tomorrow, and the spa at the Del Monte has the secret for the best Valentine's Day gift ever. Nothing says I love you more than a gift card to the spa at the Del Monte. They may not tell you what they actually want for Valentine's Day, but a gift card from the spa at the Del Monte will show how much you've been paying attention. Gift cards are available for purchase or both in-store or online at delmontespa.com.
You're listening to the Sports Update.
Sabres hockey tonight at KeyBank, the team hosting the LA Kings. Owen Power, defenseman, will not be on the ice tonight. Head coach Don Granato on the timetable.
It's going to be week to week. I think in 1 week we'll have a better idea of how long and what a return would look like at that point. So week to week, I think the hope at the short end would be a couple of weeks.
Coverage tonight begins at 7 here on the Sports Leader. The Amherst on the ice tomorrow night at Utica. We'll be joined by head coach Seth Appert next year in the Sports Bar. Syracuse basketball home tonight against North Carolina. The Orange needing this one. They're 15-9 overall. Last month they lost by 36 at Chapel Hill. The Tar Heels ranked 7th in the country. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
On the near boards, pass forward, poked it loose, and up with a Rusak. Anders on the left wing, bring it in, feet back their side, they score! Rusak feeds across the goal mouth, breaking for the net off the right wing was Murray, chips it inside the post, and the return to favor. The Amerks have taken a 2-0 lead.
Great hearing Don Stevens back on the call. That was from last weekend as the Amerks dropped both in overtime to the Syracuse Crunch Friday and Saturday. Head coach Seth Appert stopping by the Sports Bar now. Seth, every experience is a learning experience if you view it through the right lens. What did your team learn after those two losses in overtime to Syracuse last weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think, at the end of the day, there were two really good games. There were two playoff-style intensity games. We got out to leads in both. It would have been nice to get a third goal. Syracuse, it's hard to. Syracuse is the best defensive team in the American Hockey League. So they're heavy, they're old, their decor is really big and physical. But you get a third goal, and then that starts to separate a little bit, and they have to start chasing the game. And then overtime is overtime. It's 3-on-3. And we've been really good in overtime this year, and unfortunately, those both went the wrong way. So, but I think we did a lot of good things. I really liked our pushback in the last 25 minutes of the game on Saturday in their building. They were leaning on us, and we really upped our physical game. That was a violent game. It wasn't a physical game. It was a violent game, and both teams went at each other, and it felt like a playoff game.
Yeah, a team you may be seeing here come the month of April. Seth Appert, our guest here in the Sports Bar. Seth, the news out of Buffalo in the last day or so. Owen Power getting hurt. Do we know anything? Is your roster going to be impacted whatsoever with Power being down here for at least a week?
I mean, potentially going forward, not yet. They still have 6 healthy defensemen up there, and I think with both teams being either at home or close to home, there is that luxury. If there's a player that needs to be brought up quickly, you can. So there is a little bit of freedom in that regard. But depending on how the next 3 to 7 days go in terms of his rehabilitation and his recovery, could change that potentially. So, but as of today, that hasn't affected our roster yet.
Have a couple of really cool themed games coming up here at Blue Cross Arena this weekend for the Rochester Americans. Head coach Seth Appert joining us here. You've got Utica in 2 of those 3 games, and it starts on the road tomorrow against the Comets, an opponent that we're obviously very familiar with. Set us up for tomorrow night's action.
Well, yeah, we're starting a 7 games in 11 days stretch now, starting tomorrow. So we're in one, and we're going to need all hands on deck. We're going to need every player. We're going to have to get some guys some rest at certain times, and this is an important stretch. And it's not a stretch that it's going to be hard to say win all 7. But what you really need to do is not lose footing in the playoff race right now. And so, we want to approach this, we need to win this 7-game series, and starts in game 1. You want to win game 1. It's not all against the same team, but that's kind of the mindset you need to have, because we're playing, almost every day at this point. So, the best way to win a 7-game series is to get a win on the road in game one and put yourself at a good advantage going into these 7 games. So Utica's old, heavy, physical. There's not going to be a lot of space out there. You have to fight for everything you get. You know, their top 3 or 4 centers are, you know, guys that have 5, 6, 7, 800 games, NHL, American League. They're an older, heavy team. They're hard to play against. And so they're going to be demanding team to play tomorrow night and on Sunday when we get them back at home.
Yeah, in between that, you get the game on Friday night, which is going to be the salute to the veterans, Seth. And I like this. Have you seen the sweaters you're going to be wearing that night?
Yeah, those are pretty cool. Our marketing team, our graphic design stuff, they do a great job. I think almost all, if not all, of our special jerseys, I think are really well done, and I think these are another example of that, and some uniqueness to them with the players' nicknames on the back of them instead of the last name. And I think that for me, having being from this country, having the opportunity to represent our country when I coached internationally, I think anytime you have a veterans military type day, for me it's special. I'm just incredibly grateful for what our veterans and what our current troops provide for us, what they give to us, and the freedoms that they give to our country.
I mentioned the matchup against Utica at home at Blue Cross Arena. That's coming up Sunday afternoon. And then the quick turnaround, you got to go right to Toronto and play against the Marlies less than 24 hours later with a 2 o'clock puck drop on President's Day. What kind of preparation do you I mean, you mentioned earlier all hands on deck, Seth. What kind of preparation goes into that kind of quick turnaround with your team?
Yeah, that's tight. I said this Saturday after the game in Syracuse. You hate to lose in overtime, but it was a great effort. I thought we were a really physically committed team that night, and I said, now it starts now. Rest is a weapon, and the more rest and recovery you can get, and hydration and proper eating and all of that, it sets you up better for playing a 4 and 6 with an afternoon game with travel, right? So. Fortunately, the home game against Utica on Sunday is at 3, so we'll probably get to Toronto at 9:30 or so that night. Be able to get a proper sleep, and then get up and get after them. And I think what's important for our coaching staff in these tight turnarounds with a lot of games is that we give the players enough information that they're prepared, but we limit the amount of time we spend in meetings and we bog them down because there's a lot on them already. So that's the balance you have to walk as a coaching staff. How much information do they need to be prepared for our opponent, but at the same time not trying to overload them because of the amount of volume of games right now.
Seth, I remember one of our first conversations at the beginning, before one of the seasons, and just asking about lines, and you said, "Look, I don't look at lines; I look at pairings." That being said, you got to be happy with this line, the Byro Murray Rushek line right now. Your thoughts on what they're providing your team here?
They've been outstanding, and Byro and Rusek have really emerged as becoming elite American League players, NHL call-up guys and potentially full-time NHL guys in the future. I think Brett Murray's season, can be overlooked because he doesn't always point as much as Kulik, Roseanne, Rusek, Byro because he's doing the dirty work. He screens the goaltender, he wins the puck battles, things of that nature. But Brett Murray's last 10, 15 games has been exceptional. You could easily argue he's been our best player over the last 10 to 15 games. He's been on the score sheet a lot. He's been physical. Like Rusek's goal is a great example. It looks like it's going to be a breakout for Syracuse, and all of a sudden Brett Murray has a great forecheck, and he hits the guy hard, and there's a turnover, and then 2 seconds later it's in the back of the net. And he's his game. He's been a catalyst and an igniter on many different lines over the last kind of 6 weeks. And that line, yes, that line's been great, but I definitely wanted to kind of point out how good Brett Murray has been in the last 6 weeks.
Amerks head coach Seth Appert, our guest in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan as the team gets ready for a 7-game in 11-day stretch. Seth, let us know how you're managing goaltending here as much as you can as far as who you've got. We know that there's a pretty good rotation going on. Devin Levi, we would assume would get a good amount of repetition through this stretch as well, but that's a challenge for them as well as everybody else on the team.
It is, and Devin is going to get, Levi's going to get the bulk of the starts. Number one, he's an elite goaltender. Number two, that's our responsibility as part of our organization. We need to develop him, and that's part of it in the American League. But he's also earned those starts with how good he's played. But we're going to need Cooley and Tokarski, and obviously we have a ton of belief in those two very good goaltenders that have done a lot of good things for us this year. So. You can look at it at times. It's not great to have 3 goaltenders in a stretch that we're in right now over the next month with how many games we play. There will be opportunities to get fresh goalies in the net because that we have 3 right now.
Have you checked in with Devin after last night's bean pot victory for Northeastern?
Oh yeah. They had Graham Slaggert hosted a little watch dinner for some of the guys last night. I think Davies and Levi, both Northeastern grads, were over there, and I congratulated both of them on their victory this morning. So they're proud Northeastern alums. Both those guys did great things for that program, and obviously Levi, 75% of that team are still guys that he played with last year.
Gunnar Wolf Fontaine, Danger. That is the name.
What a name.
What a name.
Hard to beat. That is a great name for any athlete, any sport.
Gunnar Wolf.
Yeah.
I mean, and he scores the overtime game winner in both games in the Bean Pot. There's probably going to be a statue of him on that campus somewhere.
Seth, I wanted just to kind of, ask your opinion on this one play there. Do we have... Like, baseball is known as the sport of the unwritten rule, but it seemed like we had something in the NHL where you know where I'm going with this. Greg at Ottawa comes in and let me just put it in. No, I'm going to take a slap shot. Was any of that out of bounds in your opinion? What you saw?
Well, I think both were out of bounds, but both, first of all, Greg is a really good player, and he's a bit of a pest. That's how he plays. He's been in Belleville. I got a lot of respect for his game, both from a skill perspective and a competitive perspective. So, that's in his DNA a bit. Now, you probably deserve to take a little punishment after that. I think that if it's your player, you'd probably prefer it not to be to the head, right? I think when you take a slap shot into an empty net like that, you're probably anticipating something happening. If it's your player, you probably want them to respond, but you probably don't want them to respond with a cross check to the head because, that's going to be a suspension. I don't think they've ruled yet on that, but it's probably going to be a lengthy one. As much as that's part of the game, you do something like that, there's a price to pay. It is a new age in the NHL and in hockey, and you certainly are cognizant of not wanting head injuries and not attacking people in that part of their body because of what it can lead to. So, I think I can totally understand it on both sides, but I think the fact that it's to the head makes it a little egregious.
Seth, we know what kind of a stretch your team is looking down the barrel of here, and we're wishing you the best. We'll talk to you next week, same time. You'll be a little,
unless he's passed out.
Unless you're completely road weary from the trip to Toronto after playing all these games in such a short amount of time. Best of luck, and looking forward to it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
There he is. Thanks, Seth. Rochester Americans head coach Seth Appert. Yeah, I saw that play. I'm like, well, everybody's in the wrong. You can't do that one, and then you can't respond the way he did too. There are such instances where there isn't really a right or wrong. It's like everybody's wrong, or nobody needed to do what they did.
Yeah. So Greg, the player for Ottawa, if you haven't seen the video, all you have to do is just gently push it in the net. Nope. I'm gonna wind up and take a slap shot. Yeah, and then he gets the cross check to the head, and yeah, I think Seth said it perfectly. Everyone's wrong, and boy. What about we got to find Gunnar Wolffontein a spot here in the pros, though.
That
is a name.
That's an
name.
elite name. Yeah. When you're having a child and you name them with the intention of them being an athlete as they grow, I mean, like, that's the name you get. Easton Stick is one of my favorites, right? Like, when you hear Easton Stick, it's like the old man was just looking at the corner of his garage and saw an old hockey stick that he used to play street hockey with and thought, you know what? Easton Stick is a pretty tough name for a kid. I'm going to go with that.
Well, Gunnar is a name. That says my son is going to be like... No, Gunnar's not enough. You're Gunnar Wolf.
Yeah.
Gunnar Wolf.
Yeah.
Got a little wolf in you. But.
That's pretty good. And Northeastern getting the Bean Pod last night. I was thinking about that. Devin Levi was probably watching intently, given that they weren't on the ice. And sure as rain. Yeah, that right as rain. That's exactly what happened there with Seth telling us that they had a little watch party for the Bean Pod final there. Good stuff from Seth Appert, as always. Appreciate the coach coming in and delivering. And this stretch is going to be telling for the Amherst. This is the stretch that kind of lets you know, like, where are they going to be? What exactly are they going to be when the season's over?
There is a massive difference between third and fourth. If you are in fourth, well, you got to play that crummy little playing game round where, like, okay, best of three, anything can happen. Wrong bounce, sorry, adios. You're third, okay, you don't have to worry about that. You get the 2, but also you don't have to worry about Syracuse. Like, that's the one team, all right, wait till them to get to the divisional finals there. So, yeah, the Amherst are in third coming out of this. Everything is going to be okay.
It's a big stretch of games, man. 2 games in less than 24 hours. Oof. And you have to travel to Toronto on President's Day.
What do they need President's Day for up there? Come on. Like, really? It's got to be like a kid's day thing or something up in Canada.
Well, if they have the day off from school, go ahead.
Do they do a version of that? I don't know. I mean,
I'm not sure what their tradition is for President's Day north of the border. I can tell you that every year that I ever went down to Florida for that week, for President's Week, there were a lot of Canadians down there. So it is like their winter break, I imagine. Whether it's...
all right. It's called Family Day.
Oh.
That is Family Day. Our President's Day is Family Day up in Canada. The more you know.
Very good. Gino, doing a little research there and finding
Googles,
out why we have a 2 o'clock puck drop on President's Day north of the border.
Which means you and I are off Monday, buddy.
That's right. No, the heavy lift. No heavy lift on Monday. We'll be back the following day, a week from today on Tuesday. All right, we're going to take a break and come back. Happy hour is right around the corner. We got a lot to unpack from our conversation with Matt Perino of the Syracuse Post-Standard. And if you're just joining us earlier, we began to reflect and look back on our preseason bold predictions from the 2023 NFL season. Sharing is caring, kids, and we are not afraid to admit some of these bold predictions were wrong. However, coming up with happy hour, I know I've got at least one that I'm like, oh, it feels good to get one right.
Yeah.
Every now and then.
That's a little bit of breaking news if I can have the sounder here.
Ooh, is it time for breaking news?
Ow! 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 It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
Is it kind of a D move if the team that you share with in town won a Super Bowl championship? But you know what? We're going to announce today. We're going to take the shine away from the Chiefs. The Royals have just announced their new plans for a downtown stadium. It's going to be in 2028. Now, I'm sure there's going to be challenges or whatnot, but these artist renderings, Mike Danger, when you go home tonight, they are beautiful. All the world's problems are going to be solved in Kansas City by the Royals moving to
Kaufman always looked like by standards of the 80s when we grew up, you watch baseball in the 80s as a kid. I remember watching and thinking, is that a waterfall in the outfield? Like, that is beautiful. What is this place?
Well, the waterfall, basically, because they needed seats or whatever, that's like gone. That's like while we were like the waterfall.
I know, but isn't that just such a brilliant depiction of the excess of the 80s. Like, we need a waterfall in the outfield. We need something stunning, a feature so stunning you won't see it anywhere else.
I'm looking. Come on. How could they not work in a waterfall in these artist renderings, Danger?
Absolutely.
Not at all. Like, that's what I want in the new Bills Stadium. That makes sense. Hey, Niagara Falls, there's a waterfall.
Ooh, a mini replica of Niagara Falls inside
Get
New
a little
Highmark.
water feature.
Get a little water feature, a nice calming area for Bills fans to cool off. How quickly before that gets destroyed?
See, if you had extra time, you would be doing water feature in your backyard, I bet.
Oh, if I had extra time, I'd be doing a lot of different things in my backyard. Absolutely. There's no question about that. What was the other baseball note that I saw that crossed my feed? Was it Jorge Soler going to the Giants?
Yeah.
Oh,
who cares? Yeah.
I mean, that's a big move for the Giants, but I'm sorry, man. Like, it's a Francesa for me because the Dodgers already won the offseason. Like, any move you make now, he's a really nice player. He's a really good player. He adds a lot to any team he's on.
Big postseason run with Atlanta.
Yep.
You're hoping, like, the format of baseball, Danger, is like, all right, let's just get in, and then maybe we get lucky a couple games and the Dodgers are out. Like, that's kind of the hope. Like,
we're hoping that the other team fails.
The Dodgers are so. Has there been a team on paper that you're like, nope, that team is going to be the best in the league? It's the Dodgers.
It is absolutely their championship to lose. Before you even throw the first pitch. That's the team that if it doesn't work out, who are you assessing blame? Like, how does it not work out with that excess of talent that they have?
Of course, the Dodgers then putting out video. Here's Shohei. Like, what was it? 21 pitches, 16 he hit over the wall. It's just like, oh.
Yeah, that's something. Happy hour coming up. We revisit our 2023 NFL bold prediction. That's all on the way here in the Sports Bar. You can pull up a stool and join us at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. Valentine's Day is tomorrow. This is your chance to shine. The spa at the Del Monte has the secret for the best Valentine's Day gift ever. Nothing says I love you more than a gift card to the spa at the Del Monte. They may not tell you what they actually want for Valentine's Day, but a gift card from the spa at the Del Monte will show how much you've been paying attention. Gift cards are available for purchase in-store or online at delmontespa.com.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and 9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Buffalo Sabres hockey tonight. The team hosting the LA Kings. The Sabres beat this team right before the All-Star break. And Coach Don Granato says tonight that's not relevant.
You certainly don't want to take much, to be honest with you. It starts at 0-0. Anytime you play a team you just beat, they're going to be ready for you. They're going to be dialed in. So there's, you don't take a whole lot from that.
Owen Power will not be in the lineup tonight. He's out at least a week with a wrist injury, according to head coach Seth Apper to the Rochester Americans. No corresponding move just as of yet. Coverage tonight begins at 7 here on the Sports Leader. The Amherst are on the ice tomorrow night at Utica. Tonight, Syracuse basketball needing this one. It's a tough assignment. They take on number 7 North Carolina. Syracuse 15-9 on the season. They lost by 36 last month at Chapel Hill. Gene Battaglia, the Sports Leader, the Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
I'm concerned for the rest of the league that the Chiefs are going to be even better in the coming year than they've been the last two.
A three-peat is in the cards. It's legendary. I mean, no one's ever done it.
Mahomes.
He's our Brady now, guys. He is that guy. When it's close, he's going to find a way.
They underestimated the heart of a champion. It is tough to knock him out.
Mike Danger.
They're maddening because when you see them win and win the way that they won, it's hard to imagine that they can't do it again next year, that the Chiefs wouldn't be considered the favorite out of the AFC. Who's beating them? Who's beating them? They're going to win their third straight. Who's beating them?
Gene Battaglia.
Please tell me how the Buffalo Bills need to use a first-round pick on a wide receiver. I'm sorry. Get someone physical who can play on either side of the ball. Get me somebody in the defensive line that can punch somebody in the mouth. Get me a mean left tackle or somebody that you can groom. That is where the games are won.
DJ Mangus.
Go Sabres. Buffalo prepares for LA tonight. Owen Power.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
It is happy hour, and we welcome you on into the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, glad you're with us and making us part of your routine. If you're driving home at 95.7 FM or AM 950, if you're listening where we sound our best, feel free to download Odyssey app, or if you're watching along on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. I'm Mike Danger. That is Gene Battaglia.
Yeah, fun show today where we talked to head coach Seth Appert. I mean, a wide-ranging thing. We were talking about the bean pot to this brutal stretch for this team. 7 games in 11 days. Also to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard. And gosh, that's where we are right now with the Buffalo Bills, just kind of measuring up the roster here. When you look at what the Bills have, how does it match up against the Chiefs? And Matt said, hey, of the teams that the Chiefs beat during this run, even though the Niners went to overtime, he thought the Bills played the Chiefs the toughest.
Yeah, you could make the argument that just having Josh Allen means that you're closer than most teams would be to being able to dethrone the champs. I still have questions, and we'll have a lot of questions here through the course of the offseason. Of course, free agency might answer some of those questions. The draft may answer some of those questions. We'll get more questions answered through training camp as well. I mean, we're just now waiting in line for the ride to start again, right? We're just getting back in line, checking the wait time. There's a wait time at most of these rides. It's a good 2 hours. For us, it's a couple of weeks.
Found myself just so wanting football once again. I didn't do a mock draft. I did a mock schedule.
Oh,
I have the Bills playing on Thanksgiving, Danger, for what it's worth.
You did a mock schedule?
I did a mock schedule.
Share with the class. What are you holding out from us, Gino? This is the Sports Bar. There are no secrets. Tell me about your mock schedule.
Well, the mock schedule has the Bills opening up against Jacksonville, a couple night games. I should have brought it in here, but that's honestly.
So it's a couple of highlights you have on your mock schedule. The Bills playing Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. I have them closing out in Miami once again in Week 17 because the NFL loved that storyline so much last year. If it comes down to it once again.
Okay. And you have them opening at Jacksonville?
Yes, and I have them an October Sunday night game at home against Kansas City.
Is this the year that they get the Chiefs at home?
They get the Chiefs at home.
Oh, that's nice.
They get San Francisco at home.
That makes me a little nervous. But yeah, the Chiefs.
You get Arizona. You get Tennessee. Yeah, you get some slappies. Yeah,
feels like a win. Yeah. Jacksonville week 1 in Jacksonville. Is that
No, that's in Buffalo.
Oh, it would be in
Yeah,
Buffalo.
yeah.
Okay. I was going to say that would be, what is that? They got a year off of Florida in September. You got to go back to Florida in September every other year and play in that oppressive heat with no shade. We're looking ahead to what the 2024 schedule may be, while also looking back at the bold predictions we made prior to the 2023 NFL season. And if you're just joining us, we shared some of those bold predictions earlier this afternoon. We've got a couple more each to share as we kind of evaluate here.
I'm going to recap the 3 that I like you say I missed, hit, and then I guess it's a miss here. I had it that Jordan Love would have a great season, pointing out to the things that he did toward the tail end of 2022. And in the end, I said the Packers would make the NFC Championship game. For that, oh, come on, dude, like the Packers. That was all right. So you're the judge on that.
That's a push.
That's a push. The Bengals would be a mess. That like their win total at the beginning of the year 11.5. I'm like, oh my gosh, hammer the under on this because they haven't paid Joe Burrow. Well, at that point they didn't. They hadn't paid their 2 wide receivers, Chase, no, and Higgins, no. Story today, maybe they franchise tag Higgins. Sidebar.
Yeah.
Teams that do that,
good luck with that.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's always a hostile move. That's a hit. And then I had Kyler Murray screwing up the Cardinal pecking order here by coming back, and they would win enough games to cost the Cardinals the number 1 overall pick, and it would cost head coach James Gannon his job, which it did not. So that's a miss.
Yeah, along those lines, I had Gannon as a one-and-done coach as well. One of my bold predictions from before the 2023 season was that there would be a total of 9 teams looking for new head coaches, and there were a total of 8. So Arizona was one of those teams that I thought would be looking for a new head coach. I had Ben Johnson as the hot candidate, along with Panthers defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero, Mike Kafka, Lincoln Riley. Is somebody trying to lure Coach Prime, but Coach Prime not going. So I missed on that one. We didn't have 9 teams looking for new head coaches. We only had 8.
9 times.
I also whiffed on who the leading rookie rusher would be. I thought that it was going to be Zach Charbonnet out of Seattle and not Bijan Robinson in Atlanta, who came in with all the fanfare. And despite his best efforts, Arthur Smith went ahead and fed Bijan Robinson enough to the point where he led all rookies with 976 rushing yards.
Yeah.
And then I'm giving this one to me. I know I went a little bit farther here and kind of piled on a little bit with the Steelers, but I will say throughout the course of the season, whenever I said this, you and everybody thought I was crazy. I mentioned this to Steeler fan friends of mine, and they thought I was crazy. I made this prediction before the season started that they would be a 10-win team and that they would make the postseason. Now, what got me in trouble here is I piled on. I said things like Kenny Pickett would emerge as the team leader in the offense, that George Pickens would wow us, that TJ Watt would be the defensive player of the year once again. None of those things happened, but the Steelers did win 10 games, and the Steelers did make the postseason. So, while I'll give myself that, I'll also say, yeah, Kenny Pickett in a quarterback competition here heading into camp is probably...
I would just say it for what it is. You are a secret Steeler fan. You're a Steeler lover.
I think a lot of organizations in the NFL wish that they could model themselves the way the Steelers are modeled. To not have to worry about who your head coach is going to be year in and year out, to have that kind of stability. I mean, it's kind of remarkable.
Yeah, on the other hand, you're coming up on year 14 without appearing in a Super Bowl. So, yeah, some reason they always kind of get a pass. Hey, we're always hanging around. Always hanging around.
All you're doing is, I don't know if you know this or not, but Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, am I a fan? Yeah, I maybe I am a little bit of a Steelers honk because I like that level of consistency, even though they can't get over and they can't quite make it to the promised land. they're always in the conversation. They're always farting around.
If you're just tuning in, we're doing our review. This was right after Labor Day, right before the season opened, our annual tradition, our bold predictions. It's time to read them back here and just see how close we were, how widely inaccurate we were. And this was my prediction on the Buffalo Bills. And again, there's no editing. You have to read it. Anything short of a championship in Buffalo this year, and fans want to pick a fall guy. But here's what's different this year. Terry Pegula is now more involved. As team president, he'll be weighing in.
Yeah.
And Terry will make suggestions to Sean McDermott, go get yourself a defensive coordinator. And when Washington moves on from Ron Rivera, he'll find a new home in Buffalo on Sean McDermott's staff. Now, wait, a timeout. That could still. What if Rivera? Would it surprise you at all? We've been having these, oh, hey, you went to William & Mary? Okay, great. You're a quality control coach. What if he was just kind of brought in as some sort of ombudsman on defense there, an extra voice?
Here you go, Coach. You can join us as a defensive consultant, and we will pay you in Duffs. Is that okay? Because we really don't want to pay you what you know you're worth, but we'll pay you in Duffs. Can you handle chicken wings? Would you like chicken wings for the season, Coach? Yeah, I don't think it's happening. But I do like the assumption there that Terry Pegula would be more involved.
Foolish. Where did I come up? Why would I even think that? What would lead me to that point that it was, maybe it was only because...
You're not entirely wrong. They did get a defensive coordinator. It just wasn't Ron Rivera. Yeah. So Bobby Babich is your defensive coordinator on Sean McDermott's staff, and we'll find out sooner rather than later whether or not he's actually calling the plays on Sean McDermott's defense this upcoming season. So my Bills prediction, this is my victory lap, right? Because I said it all season long. I said it early in the season when they started to flounder a little bit, when things were up and down in the roller coaster ride that was the 2023 season. Before the season began, I wrote that the Bills will make the playoffs, but they'll need a Week 18 win in Miami to do so. In an ultra-competitive AFC East, that final game of the season will be what amounts to a play-in game there in the league's final regular season game, and on prime time, Josh Allen will orchestrate a game-clinching drive that ends on the foot of Tyler Bass. The Bills win the AFC East this year, but only by the narrowest of margins, and the Dolphins, along with the Jets and Patriots, fail to advance to the postseason. Come on. I kind of got that one right.
I will give you that one. Even though the Dolphins, but when they were in, what were they? They were just a sacrificial lamb.
Yes.
But get out of here with that.
They were absolutely you know what they were? They were holograms of themselves. They were holograms out there on that frozen tundra in Kansas City. And I would even go as far as to say that the AFC East wasn't ultra competitive, but it was competitive. The Bills lost. They lost to the Jets. They lost to New England.
You had them winning it on a special teams play. It was the Hardy return for a touchdown there.
Yeah. All right, good. So
I'll give you that.
That's
one.
My victory lap. That was the one where when I looked at the schedule and I kind of was trying to predict what the Bills' season would look like, I'm like, you know what? It's going to come down to that last game. They're not running away with this division. It's too tough.
Well, where you were right on this one is wildly inaccurate. Who's going to be the coach of the year? Well, it never goes to Andy Reid or Sean McDermott. And that's why I should have just stopped there. You are good. You are expected to be good if you're those coaches. It will go to a team that plays in a super soft division. And instead of close losses, they'll win close games. And with upgrades at quarterback and running back, your coach of the year is Arthur Smith of the Atlanta Falcons, who finished 12-5 this year. Ken, what was I thinking?
Did Arthur Smith get a gig?
Yes, he's in Pittsburgh.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So he's charged now with revitalizing the career of Kenny Pickett and utilizing those weapons.
Yeah. Steeler fans be like, boy, we had it good with Matt Canada.
Yeah, you really addressed that. My coach of the year prediction going into the season, and we say this all the time, I wrote that it always seems to go to the coach on the sidelines of the team with low expectations. I wrote that this year We'll be giving it to Shane Steichen in Indianapolis. The Colts will find themselves farting around with the rookie quarterback, and that will be enough for Steichen to notch the award. But make no mistake about his win. It's less about his ability and more about the mess that the Colts were in at the end of the 2022 season, losing 7 straight, giving up the biggest comeback in NFL history with Jeff Saturday. Remember the Jeff Saturday experiment? Jeff Saturday was their interim head coach. Certainly primes the pump for a turnaround season. I know I was wrong, but I didn't feel like it was that far off. Like, if they made the postseason, Steichen probably wins that award.
Well, yeah, just the whole thing gets blown up when Richardson goes down very early.
But you were farting around with Gardner Minshew as your quarterback. Like, he did a good job as
I think
a coach.
It says more about that division. I mean, next year, like, we're all picking Houston to win that division. Are they ready to kind of move ahead here in expectations? I don't know. The Colts, to me, it's also going to be interesting, too, because the guy calling the shots, like, yeah, he put out a tweet that he's okay with Irsay and he's on the road to recovery, but is he really? Like, that whole Irsay story is very, very...
it's a little scary.
Yeah, lacking in detail there.
Well, yeah, we don't need to know the details. We can connect our own dots and draw our own conclusions to kind of figure out what's going on. But you hope that the guy's okay, and you wonder how involved he is through this recovery process, just like we wonder how involved Terry Pagula would be with Kim Pagula's recovery process. And it turns out he, from what we could tell, not as involved, or at least not publicly involved.
Not publicly. I truly believe that Terry Pagula is the guy that after the Bills lose a game, he's calling up the head coach. He's not going to change. He's under Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan's underneath him, and he's watching film with Rex Ryan every day. Watching film. This is like the one training camp. So did Terry Pagula all of a sudden change, or did somebody kind of get to him and say, you know what, let's take this out of the public eye or in front of the reporters?
I would imagine that Sean McDermott probably put a stop to that pretty quick. Coach, you hired me to be the coach. Or Terry, you hired me to be the coach. Let me be the coach. You be the owner. We don't need you in here watching film. It puts unneeded pressure on everybody. Just go. Go be the owner. Go hang out in the super yacht for a while. I imagine that McDermott and Bean probably laid that law down pretty quickly. And then Rex probably didn't care. Like, whatever.
Rex, it's a show. Yeah. Bring a few cold ones. We'll watch some film.
Yeah. And then we made our postseason predictions before the season began as well. I had the Ravens and the Niners in the Super Bowl, with the Ravens winning, Lamar Jackson winning the MVP. So while I hit on Lamar as the MVP...
So you're telling me there's a
chance?
Nope,
not the right one. If I hit on Lamar as the MVP, I whiffed on the Ravens making it to the Super Bowl, as I had the Ravens beating the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. We remember that outcome.
Yeah, and I had, incorrectly, I said it was the Niners. It was the Ravens over Philly. My MVP was Trevor Lawrence. Because I was falling into that. It was Peter King who was saying, look, the Jags, they made it to the divisional round. They're an easy division. They have all these wins they can kind of stack up. And I'm like, yeah, I like Doug Peterson. I like Doug. Kind of forgetting that it's Jacksonville. Like, they're not...
Right, but it's a Jacksonville team that can surprise people. They surprised the Bills in London. I don't think anybody saw Jacksonville beating up on the Bills the way they did in that London game. But they could also look like a terrible team the way they did in Week 18 when they had a chance to clinch the division and couldn't do it against a bad, beaten-up Tennessee team. Like, hard team to figure out. Trevor Lawrence is pretty beat up at the end of the year, too.
Yeah.
Really banged up. And, give him credit for getting out there, I guess. But, with Doug Peterson as their coach, with Lawrence as their quarterback, I'd give them a chance in that division, even with Houston's kind of rise out of nowhere. Houston's a great story going into next year, but I'm not just going to hand them the division. Not with... the unknown is Richardson, really, in Indianapolis. What kind of a quarterback is he? We didn't really get to see a lot of it, but what we saw was fairly spectacular. And if that happens, if he comes back and he's got more time with Steichen, I'm not going to discount Indianapolis either. Could be the South could be a compelling division in the AFC. There's our bold predictions.
Oh, I'm ready to make more bold predictions for 2024 here at Danger.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to wait. Again, we're waiting in line. Like waiting in line at the amusement park to get back on the ride that we've ridden before. I can't wait to ride it again.
What, you mean like Sabres hockey's not going to do it for you tonight? Syracuse basketball is not going to do it for you tonight?
Feels like a loss. What's the spread between Syracuse and North Carolina?
Can't bet on that in New York State. Yeah.
It's not wide enough. I'll say that. Whatever the spread is, make it wider. It's not wide enough. Yes, I know we can't bet on that. And then if you wanted to bet on the Sabres, let's just remember that the last time they played this team, they broke this team. LA got off to the early lead first period. They let their foot off the gas. And really, it was the Amerks that beat the Kings because it was Peterka and Quinn. This is right before the All-Star break. Peterka and Quinn kind of turning it around and notching the win.
It was the first time the Sabres down 2-0 after one. Like, they actually won the game? Remember, woke up the next morning like, really? You won? Huh.
And the Kings were in disarray. The players were upset in the locker room afterwards. Head coach was upset. He ends up losing his job, and now the Kings come back to Buffalo, and, well, let's see. I have a feeling that they're going to play with a little added urgency, given that this was the team that kind of forced their hand to make a lot of changes that they probably weren't planning on making. The Sabres can do that. You lose to the Sabres, they have to evaluate everything within your organization. Turn it upside down to make sure that never happens again.
The story out of baseball, one of them today. So we're having this boom of building here. Of course, we've got that stadium we think is going to be happening in Vegas. Tampa has one officially. The White Sox are trying for their park, and one stadium that we grew up with, Kauffman or whatever they were calling it. The Royals are going to be moving downtown if they have their way. So they're full go here. I just think that's kind of being a bad neighbor. Shouldn't this be the week the Chiefs kind of need to shine here? But you're going to actually, what do I care? Knock the Chiefs off the front page in Kansas City.
They get tomorrow again. The parade is tomorrow, and everybody will. I like it because you've got a fever right now in that city for sports. You just saw the Chiefs win another title, their second in a row, and you know that they're coming in for the parade. I don't have a problem with them doing it. I don't know that they really knocked any of the shine off of the headlines of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, I'm wondering now if the Chiefs are we're the Royals are gonna. What are we gonna get here? Huh? Yeah, because Arrowhead. Yeah, I know they pumped some money into it.
Yeah, they just renovated that recently, didn't they? I was thinking even beyond baseball and football. When are they announcing the expansion of a Kansas City hockey team? Now, if you're a Kansas City sports fan, that's what you want to hear. How can we get more of this feeling, this championship feeling that we have?
Weren't we supposed to have an announcement on the Coyotes? That's what all the NHL insiders were teasing there last week. And then
Salt Lake City Coyotes coming soon, too.
What happened with all that chatter? I guess one last ditched effort there by Bettman to keep the team in the desert.
All right. Well, since we're talking about stadiums and relocating and expansion, what's going on with Vegas and the A's? Is there anything new to report on that?
No. Literally, there's going to be these challenges. One from a school board group that that's going to hold it up a little bit. So the things we know: team is playing in Oakland this year. Great. How many people will actually go to see a lame duck team? I don't know. Where do they play next year? No idea.
Nobody knows?
Nobody knows. Do they really have a real stadium blueprint? They don't. They like what they presented where they're going to knock down the Tropicana, it doesn't fit. So either they're recrafting that right now. There's just so many questions about this that maybe it wouldn't be the craziest idea that maybe they actually stay in Oakland after all, with all the uncertainties here.
What about the situation with the Rays? Anything new on that?
No, they're getting a stadium. Remember that story.
That is happening.
That is done, and they're taking the template of, it's going to be a stadium, and it's also going to have these retirement homes and development this, development that. So it's going to stay down there in St. Petersburg, which you've been to Florida. I've been to Florida. That seems like a mistake. That seems like that is nowhere near anything, and that doesn't really fix the problem. It'll be this nice new ballpark that still kind of tough to get to.
But they're developing around it, and everything is booming down there, man. Everything is, especially around Tampa, it's just expanding like crazy around there. So maybe that works out long term for them. I'm more curious about what it looks like. Like the dome, the Trop is such a relic. I mean, it's really like the last of its kind.
Oh, they'll knock that down.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll knock that down.
That's still where you would have like fly balls would hit the roof, right? The catwalks, and then it'd be like
the old Metrodome, basically.
Yeah. Well, the last of era gone by. The dome. It's not going to be a dome anymore. It'll just be a big monstrosity. A very high ceiling.
Like as far as domes that are not retractable, like Syracuse might have the last one.
Ooh.
Like the Astrodome is still exists.
Still there.
It's still there, but they don't use it for anything.
Yeah, it's probably like a convention center, right?
No,
like,
they don't use it for anything. I don't think they use it for anything.
Ooh.
Just never knocked it down. Like,
God, can you imagine if they're not using it or upkeeping it? What that must look like a ghost town in there.
Well, the debate in Montreal is this. I was reading a little bit about this because they're holding out hope that they're going to get a team someday at the return of the Expos, but Major League Baseball doesn't want to go to that old stadium. The Quebec government's going to put $850 million toward a new roof. And people are like, why are we doing this? The Big O, like it's some sort of landmark that you have to preserve because the Olympics were there once upon a time. Are you kidding me?
Is that going to be enough to lure an expansion team?
No, I don't think Major League Baseball wants to go back in there. Like that would be a dome too. But the dome right now, it's got leaks and everything else.
Right.
Yeah, it's been a few years.
Yeah. Let's get to a round of shots next in the sports bar.
Well, there is one team, Danger, that will be rolling out some new uniforms. The City Connect style, we'll tell you that. But they're getting roasted online. We'll go over that. Sabre injury news, we'll get you updated on Owen Power. Syracuse tonight as well. And also, the night in the NBA last night for Victor Wembanyama. Oh. He's become must-see television here.
Yeah, he's real impressive. 10-block, triple-double. Wow. We'll get to that and more next. A round of shots on the way in the sports bar. Last call coming up before 6 o'clock as well. You can get in now at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
Sports Update.
Sabres hockey tonight. The team hosting the LA Kings, a team that the Sabres beat right before the break. Owen Power, though, will not be on the ice tonight. He's out a couple weeks with a wrist injury. Don Granato gives more on the timetable.
It's going to be week to week. I think in 1 week we'll have a better idea of how long and what a return would look like at that point. So week to week, I think the hope at the short end would be a couple of weeks.
Coverage tonight begins at 7 here on the Sports Leader. The Amherst in action tomorrow night. They play at Utica. Syracuse basketball on the home court tonight, taking on North Carolina. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com, where today, think about spring. You can save on some golf to Eaglevale. For this and other great deals, log on to GetMyPerks.com today. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Sabres, Amherst, your home for live sports is 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I think we got guys in this room who are too worried about themselves and worried about their points and worried about stuff like that. We get a 3-1 lead tonight, and guys start thinking it's a cookie night, and we stop playing the way we know how to play, have an awful second period, and then aren't much better in the third. It's about the team. It's not about yourself, and a lot of guys on this team need to realize that.
There's Drew Doughty of the LA Kings. That's audio from after the Sabres beat the Kings right before the All-Star break. Coming down from 2 goals. It's a cookie night.
Yeah.
Right? This hour of the Sports Bar and Shots brought to you by the Farmer's Dog. Fresh, human-grade dog food delivered right to your door. We've got some Sabres hockey tonight.
Yeah, and about that loss, it was so bad that it was only a week later that Todd McClellan got fired as the head coach of the Kings. So they're still got an interim guy. Jim Hiller is his name behind the bench tonight. No, there hasn't been a move with Owen Power's injury, but as Seth Appert joined us last hour, he explained that, well, with the Amherst being close to home here, that if the Sabres do need to call somebody up, they can. They will not do that for tonight. Our coverage begins at 7 here on the Sports Leader.
Feels like a loss. Are you going to watch?
I don't know what I'm watching tonight.
I don't know what I'm going to watch. That's big for me.
Yeah.
I've been watching, I watch every game. And again, I can't stress this enough. If all you do is watch Sabres hockey, if that's the only hockey you consume, when you watch another game with teams that are competitive, teams that are in a playoff position, it's like a different sport. It's sad. And for that, I don't know that I'm going to watch tonight.
Yeah, it's I'm going to bounce between the Sabres and Syracuse. Syracuse, well, they met North Carolina 1 month ago today.
How'd that go?
Sandblasted 103-67. Yeah, that was on a Saturday afternoon. I just kind of wiped that from our memory. Syracuse may not have a chance tonight because of the boards here. The 7th-ranked Tar Heels are tops in the ACC in rebounding, and who's really the 5 for this Syracuse team? Armando Bacot is a double-double, usually getting one, and he could have one tonight against Syracuse. It's a 7 o'clock tip tonight on ESPN.
Feels like a loss.
They're doing damage control danger at the Phoenix Open, where things got so out of hand Saturday that they cut off alcohol sales. Think about that. The tournament director, Chance Cosby.
Not that Cosby. No, I'm the Chance Cosby. There's a Z in my last name.
Chance.
Nothing like that heathen Bill Cosby who's rotting where he belongs. No. I am Chance Cosby of the Phoenix Cosbys, and we are disgusted by the antics of the patrons at the Waste Management Phoenix Open.
Chance, is that short for Chancellor? What is it short for?
I'm waving my finger at you. How dare you question my name and its origins? I am Chance Cosby of the Phoenix Cosbys. That's Cosby with a Z. Thank you very much.
Well, the tournament director, Chance Cosby,
That's me.
says
Tournament director, Phoenix Open. That is I, Chance Cosby, and I am appalled. Disgusted.
What did you think of people urinating in the luxury tent there?
We have provided them with adequate rest areas, and the goal, the audacity of someone to urinate in public.
And you also had somebody jumping into the sand trap, doing a sand angel.
My eyes have not seen such treachery. We will not stand for this at the Phoenix Open.
Were you a member of Bushwood? Is that where I knew you?
Yes. Yes, I was.
Bushwood.
Was there with Judge Smells?
Yeah, Bushwood is a dump.
Huh? Let me tell you something, my friend. It is easy to grin when your ship has come in and you've got the stock market beat. But a man who's worthwhile is a man who can smile when his pants are too tight in the seat. Pass me another one, Pookie.
Mr. Cosby says there's going to be a complete overhaul of the security plan. Of course there is. Meanwhile, Zach Johnson perhaps delivering the warning here, reminding everyone that he and other golfers on the tour, they play Phoenix by choice. They don't have to.
They play the tour by choice at this point. I mean, this is the kind of thing that makes it become a little bit more crystal clear as to why, I mean, besides the money that's getting thrown at them, but why big name golfers go and play on the Live Tour. Why? Because you don't have this. You don't have to deal with this crap.
Well, Phoenix always was the one like, hey, what would it be like, if you could actually like cheer and do things like, yeah, that was always the tournament. And it had this rowdy atmosphere and kind of a spring break type of feel. But this was out of hand. People running onto the green, people yelling during somebody's backswing. It was no security.
These guys don't want to deal with it. I'm telling you, these pro golfers, we want to relate to them. We want to believe that they relate to us. They don't. They're aliens. Just like every other billionaire or millionaire that's out there that, they don't relate to us. They're not one of us. They don't want to chug beers with us when they win. Maybe they give off that impression, but they want to win. They want to win, and they don't want the distraction, and they don't want the shenanigans. It makes more sense with stuff like this going on. It makes more sense that now you kind of understand, like, oh, they're throwing money at me to go play tournaments where I'm not going to be distracted, where I'm not going to be heckled, where I'm not going to have somebody yelling in my backswing. Yeah, sign me up.
Normally when you get a triple-double in any level of basketball, it's points, rebounds, assists. Doesn't have to be those categories, of course. Spurs rookie Victor Wembanyama did it last night. 27 points, 14 rebounds, 10 blocks.
Fantastic.
He leads the league in blocks. His second triple-double of that kind this year. So he's going to be the rookie of the year, no doubt. 6 games in the NBA tonight. Boston is at Brooklyn, Miami playing at Milwaukee. The doubleheader on TNT. I don't know why they picked this one. Oklahoma City at Orlando at 7:30.
No, that's a fun matchup.
You think so? You like Orlando?
Absolutely. I like both of those teams. That's a fun matchup. Two really young teams.
Oh, I got you with Oklahoma City. I just didn't. Orlando's not on my radar.
Yeah, so. Orlando's fun. They're a couple of fun teams. They're both young and fun, and I like both of those teams. I like that early game.
Kings and Suns at 10 o'clock.
I think Wembanyama is spectacular, and as he kind of grows and continues to develop and bulks up, like you shudder to think what he could actually be because of his size. I mean, he just towers over people. 10 blocks, and he makes it look easy when he's blocking these shots. He's going to be a lot of fun for a long time.
Yeah, he is that's the future of the league right there. Finally, the Toronto Blue Jays are getting roasted for a video they posted online with the caption that reads, "You asked for it, coming soon. Cup holders in the new 100 level bowl." Seriously, like on the back of the chair, you can now put your cup in.
What is this?
Something we had here at Frontier Field when it opened in 1997.
What is this new technology that they're unveiling in Toronto? Cup holders?
Yeah, well, where you always got to go for the gold. It's the response is like a lot of people just responding, no, I'd rather have Shohei Ohtani or something else.
No, that's the money that they saved by not going for Ohtani. Hey, we'll give it back to the fans in the form of a cup holder. I think that should be like the minimum, right? Like when you go to a Bills game and look, it's our dump, right? We always say it's a dump, but it's our dump. But they put nothing into keeping, like, how many cup holders in a row of seats at Highmark Stadium do you think exist now?
Oh, you think that they're gonna? But by the way,
they're never getting replaced.
No. Like
I know at this point they're never going to be replaced. But for years they've been gone, right? Like for years, cup holders have busted off and never been replaced. Like there's no upkeep. There hasn't been any upkeep.
Same thing at KeyBank.
Yes,
it's pretty. At least for over here, Innovative Field, like okay, they're repainting this or doing that, a little touch up here.
No, it's beat to hell. That's what makes this kind of funny is that you've got a couple of stadiums in Buffalo, a stadium and arena in Buffalo that are beat to hell. The cup holders were there, but they're gone just based on abuse over the course of time. And in Toronto, they're like, hey, finally, we're unveiling new technology. This thing called a cup holder. You'll get it in the lower bowl. You pay all this money, you might as well be able to hold your cup somewhere other than your hand.
Do Canadians just kind of down it really quick and you just didn't need the cup holder? Was that the whole idea? The Jays also today announcing they're going to have City Connect jerseys. Of course they are.
What is this? I feel like if we want to get into a little hot uniform talk, I don't know how hot this is.
It's
but
not hot.
Yeah, I've heard there's a bit of an uproar with some of the new jerseys here Major League Baseball's rolling out this year.
Yeah, so it was the contract since 2020 was Nike.
Yep.
Nike doesn't have the contract anymore.
Fanatics now.
Fanatics.
Yeah.
And some of these now, as teams are reporting, they're seeing like the actual colors and everything else. It's not going to look any different to you at home. However, you have players saying, "Wait a second, this doesn't fit right. This doesn't feel right," and you could tell by some of the lettering too. It's like, "Wait a second, that looks chintzy. Looks kind of cheap." So, did Major League Baseball just go to the highest bidder, but kind of not concern themselves with the quality of the uniform itself?
George Costanza make that decision?
Yeah.
What was his thing? He wanted cotton uniforms, right?
Like they would breathe better and everything. Yeah.
Cotton uniforms in baseball probably don't fly. They look like cotton uniforms. What I saw today, I looked at it, I'm like, oh, that kind of looks like a T-shirt. Doesn't look like a uniform for baseball.
Right. It looks like, exactly, like when they were at Cardinal camp, it looks like, wait a second, this just looks like a white T-shirt and somebody wrote the name on the back. Like it looks like a thing you pay $20 for.
Is it Costanza? It's Costanza. Costanza made the call.
Yeah.
It's him. He's the one that said, you know what? We want cotton. Cotton is the way to go.
Was that wrong? Should I not have done that?
No.
I tell you, I gotta plead ignorance on this thing, because if anyone had said anything to me at all when I first started here that sort of thing was frowned upon.
Yeah, they don't want cotton. No.
Yeah, here's this is off of Yahoo. Major League Baseball's new uniforms for 2024. One player, quote, "I don't like them." That was Miles Mikolas of the Cardinals. Everyone should write about it, calling them cheap.
Wow. I mean, these are things that don't affect us as fans and how we watch the game or enjoy the game. But yeah, I feel like Major League Baseball players, they do find a lot to complain about.
Oh, they're so routine based. Yeah.
You can't jar them. You can't change
my
anything.
cheese. Yeah,
you can't change anything. Last call is next in the sports bar. You can pull up a stool and join us before we close up shop. Our number is 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326. And we'll let you know who's stopping by the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia tomorrow afternoon as well. Bet the NBA with a no-sweat same-game parlay from FanDuel every Thursday with TNT Thursdays. Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of 95.7 The Fan. And it doesn't matter if you're new to FanDuel or if you already have an account, you're going to get bonus bets back if your same-game parlay doesn't win on any NBA on TNT game. NBA same-game parlays are the perfect way to combine your bets for a chance to score a bigger payday. However you want to play, head over to FanDuel.com/Mike to bet the NBA with a no-sweat same-game parlay with TNT Thursdays. That's FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Minimum 3-leg parlay required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Max refund $5 unless otherwise specified. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Leader 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Injuries are very unfortunate. This happened with him competing hard in a practice, which is even more unfortunate, but you have to do that. You have to compete hard when you put the skates on.
Sabres head coach Don Granato will go tonight against L.A. without Owen Power. Now it's a week-to-week injury. 7 o'clock, you can hear the action on the Fan Rochester from KeyBank. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. And we appreciate you stopping by this afternoon. It was a fun afternoon. It's always fun looking back at our preseason bold predictions for the NFL season.
Just how wide every year I'm like, I'm going to nail at least 4 or 5 of them, and nope, not even close.
How bold is too bold? I mean, we got pretty bold on some of these. Hit a couple, missed on many. And it kind of closes the book on what was a memorable 2023 NFL season. And we look ahead. And we look ahead with guys like Matt Perino from the Syracuse Post-Standard, who joined us in the 3 o'clock hour. Shared some Bills takes and some thoughts on the end of the season here as you look at the Chiefs as they hoist another Lombardi and what exactly the Bills need to do from a roster construction standpoint to remain competitive and maybe even beat Kansas City when it matters most.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a smart business if the Bills move on from Tre'Davious White. However, Sean McDermott's first pick, Tre'Davious White, do you bring him back? I don't think it's a done deal. So that's one of the questions we asked Matt Perino. Perino kind of agrees with you and I, but there are some people out there that are saying no, he's going to be, including Sal Capaccio, who joined us last week. He said, no, I see Tre'Davious White on this roster next year.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it will be a wait and see to see how his rehab is coming along and what he looks like. With that repaired Achilles.
Or could it be just, hey, we'd like to have you back, but it's at this number, so you choose.
You're right. That might be a challenging conversation to have as well. That will be a challenging conversation to have as well if they decide to go that route. Matt Perino was fantastic. Seth Appert was also great with us here. He joined us last hour to give us a little update, a state on the Amerks as they get ready for a stretch of games, 7 games over the course of 11 days. It starts tomorrow. With the trip to Utica.
And we learned that Family Day is in Canada on Monday. So they have a holiday, too.
That's right.
We call it President's Day, but what is it really?
They'll be playing it.
Just go to Florida for some week, yeah.
Yeah, they'll be playing Toronto, speaking of Family Day, on Family Day north of the border. That's a 2 o'clock puck drop on President's Day here. But Seth Appert, great with his time recapping a couple of disappointing losses in the home-and-home series against Syracuse from last weekend and looking ahead to the 7 games in 11 days that his team has. This is the defining moment of the season for the Rochester Americans. So if you missed Seth Appert, if you missed Matt Perino, we've got both of those conversations available for you wherever you get your podcast, wherever you like to pod. Just search out the Sports Bar, and that includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the free-to-download Odyssey app as well. All of our guest appearances are listed for you there. We'll also get our full show listed for you up there as well. You can check out any moment of the show that you may have missed. The best place to listen to the Fan Rochester, the free-to-download Odyssey app, AUDACY. We'll also appreciate you stopping by and checking out our YouTube channel. At the Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe there. Don't forget to comment as well. Our stream on Twitch at the Fan Rochester tomorrow, Wednesday. That means we get some winners with the host of BetQL's Send It In, PJ Glasser, stopping by the Sports Bar.
Who's got a great take. He's bringing up the point. Like, if the Chiefs repeat, could we have, for the first time since 06-07, a repeat in college basketball? Like calling for UConn. Is there any value in that? Because when we get to March, let's not fake it, okay? Like, we're paying attention to the NFL, but PJ is the guy who's paying attention to college basketball. So plays in college basketball as we're nearing, we're only 3 weeks away from tournament time here.
Yeah.
My goodness.
He is your Odyssey Sports betting insider, the host of Send It In. PJ Glasser and Insider Calls are presented by BetMGM. Go check out all the latest lines today on the BetMGM app. And we're going to angle for a couple of other guests here to pursue some of these off-season storylines in the NFL. We'll keep you updated on that. And we invite you to join us tomorrow afternoon as we open up shop again, starting at 3 o'clock here in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Gino, have a great night.
Thanks, you too, Dan.
Sabres hockey coming up at 7 o'clock tonight. Before that, let's get to the JR Sport Brief on the Fan Rochester. Have a great night.
It's that time again.